What's that?
Got it.
It says it's a wobbly sound. Wobbly?
It can be for a lot of reasons. This is just a bonus. If it works, it works. Yeah. So, is there halacha for ger, basically?
Right.
Okay.
And how much is that?
So we'll do that when I get into the book. We'll do that. That'll be that part. All right. So just remind me on that way of thinking. When we get to the book. Why are you here? What do you want? What are you here to find out? What's your name?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm Neil Weiner,
Yeah.
and I'm a Noah idol.
Yeah.
I have been, for many years, I've been Ask the Rabbi on various websites. And right now I'm on one called MessiahTruth.com.
Yeah. You know Fryam?
Certainly, I've seen the name on the screen many times.
Yeah. I used to teach on virtual yeshiva.
So they have a Noah.
Right.
And I get asked questions about it being the Ask the Rabbi.
Right.
I really don't know.
You're the guy who says that if a goy keeps Shabbos, they're chayav misa.
I mean, I say a goy keeps Shabbos, they're chayav misa, but a goy would have to be locked in a closet.
So that's definitely going to be for you when we talk about that.
So I don't give stupid answers, but I'd like
Right.
to be more informative.
Yeah. So we'll get into that stuff. Anybody else have any particular way? Yeah.
I'm curious how that Noahide tradition or Torah or application wasn't more popular throughout history.
Right.
What brought it to its current access?
So like the history overview. That's
How
good.
was it overlooked?
Yeah.
It's so
So you want to hear the overview and the history of the movement, how it went, why it disappeared, why it's back, all that stuff.
Right, and part B is is the whole population, are you either Jewish or Noahide,
Right.
or is there room for other religions in between those two?
All right. So when we get to your angle, we'll bounce off those things again. All right. So then we ready? Yeah.
Yeah, so one other thing, I guess, kind of, maybe pertain to my first suggestion. I'm looking for my significant other, I'm trying to hear all this stuff, right? Okay, so is it really, as a person who's rejected Shiku, is it very important? I think, okay, Christian upbringing, you find a girl who's Christian too, so you're young, all this stuff, okay, that philosophy still applies,
Right.
So I've tried to date girls that are rather secular.
So it's kind of like if a frum Jew dated a conservative Jew, could they get married?
They get married to both Jews.
Right.
Is it, where's that line? Is that?
Right.
Right.
That's a good one. Okay.
Free house.
Right. So hang on to that too, and we'll. If you see I'm not getting to it, and just try to work it in, and see what we can do. All right. So that's a good start, right? I think we're good. Yeah.
All right. She said something interesting. Is Noahide compatible with any other religions?
Yeah.
I'm curious about if so, which religions would be compatible and not compatible?
Right. Which are not kosher at all, and which are more tolerant.
If something's more idealistic than something
Yeah.
else.
All right. So I hear that one. When we get to your question, remind me to tell you about Chinese food.
Okay.
All right. So we have a good slate to start with.
About kosher Chinese food, then we don't want to hear it.
All right, so we'll take a vote, informal vote. Where do you guys? Which of these things? Where do you want to start? Let's take a vote. Anyone, whoever speaks wins.
I want to start with the origin.
Okay. I kind of thought the same thing. Makes sense, right? All right, so we'll keep it loose. I don't know. So let's start with. There's so many interesting places we can start. I think rather than giving a linear timeline, I would rather kind of bounce around and give you different elements, right? Just because it's probably more interesting that way. Maybe a little bit harder to follow, but I think it's more interesting. I guess I'll start with my own personal. I can weave my own story of how I got involved. So, if you were to think and not necessarily the most technical way. And there's no right or wrong answer. This is just where I'm coming from. Who, what, when, where, how, why, or whatever in Torah was the first Ben Noach? I don't mean that literally. Just in your mind, you make a list in terms of either importance or history, whatever currency you want to be it. Who's one A Ben Noach in your world? Again, it can be Vendell Jones. I don't know. Just who's, huh?
Shem.
Exactly. So when I lived in Sfat on the campus of Shem and Aver, and it was a tourist website, tourist venue.
Location.
Yeah. And they have minyan at the cave, and Shabbos Kiddush in the cave. And I was a junkie for the cave. I lived like 3 houses all within walking distance of the cave. I didn't want to leave that street. It was called Palmach. So when I left Kollel, I was just really drawn to that cave, man. There's something about it. And it's like right in the middle of Sfat. No one really gets into it. And they have a night Kabbalah Kollel. And I was like just really, at that point in my life, I was just deep into studies and Sfat. Everything that the cover of the book suggests, which is that. And so I was learning in the Kabbalah Kollel, the davening with the sunrise, and on Shabbos doing Kiddush in the cave. And so I was always conscious of Shem ben Noach, right? The cave where Shem taught Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, so to speak, at least Jacob. I first found Shem, starting off the Torah of Shem in a certain way, so I'll leave it in. When I got to yeshiva, I was 23 years old, and I think every Baal Tshuva in the world has read Rabbi Ginsburg's book on the Aleph base. It's like the most amazing, mind-blowing book ever. I wouldn't say it is so much now. I mean, it's a good book, but it's a trippy experience when you first come across that book. Anyone that's seen Rabbi Ginsburg's lectures knows that he just kind of gets tripped out. So, on one of the pages, it says that there's a Kohen Tzedek, a righteous priest that comes with Mashiach, and it's Mashiach's companion. I've never heard that before. And I've read my 3 books on Amazon, like you, about the Mashiach at that time, right? Right, bought the Who, What, When, Where, How, Why, Press, the Book of Mashiach, whatever. And no one talks like Rabbi Ginsburg. And so it was enlightening to really see this concept. And it did take me 15 years to locate the source where he got it from. I finally did find it. It's in the set that you bought, the Legends of the Jews. He brings it in there. So he footnotes everything in the back of the book, and he quotes Gemara, Sukkah 52b. And I didn't even know how to read, so I couldn't look it up myself. And I was asking everyone in the base midrash, hey, can you show me where this says this on 52b about Mashiach and all this? And there was like, why do you want to know that? And I'm like, why would you not want to know it? This is amazing. So I made people show me, and there are 4 craftsmen of redemption: Eliyahu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. And by the way, that's the only spot in the entire Gemara where Mashiach ben Yosef is mentioned by name. There's no other spot. And the righteous priest, Kohen Tzedek. And so the big question was, who's the Kohen Tzedek? That's pretty cool. So you look at Rashi, and Rashi says, Shem ben Noach. And who can think of what my first question was? And I asked everyone in the shul.
How can Ben Noach be
That would be a nice way of saying it. Why is the goy part of the gula? And right? And it was like, why? How? How is that possible? Why? And so I don't even think anybody even blinked, batted an eye. Not only was it not a question for them, it just didn't even compute. It didn't go in. So you can see from where I'm at now in life, you can imagine where I was then. It was like, wow, this is like, what is that? But for them, it's just like, so. Right? And then it's not good or bad. It just like the Borg. They don't even react. So I researched it and looked into it, and what's going on with Shem ben Noach? And what is that guy? So maybe a year or two later, I'm getting into the Ramchal, like every other Baal Tshuva in the world. It starts. You guys probably also love the Ramchal, and he says that Mashiach, like anointed or anoint, whatever properties of anoint, is Malki Tzedek, which everybody will learn eventually in life that Shem is Malki Tzedek, and I'll tell that story in a second. But his wisdom is what is called the anointing of Mashiach. It's like Mashiach is anointed with the wisdom of Malki Tzedek. And so that's a pretty amazing concept. And so by that time, I know that Shem is something way different than certainly what an art scroll footnote will say and what the layman will say. And there was just something really, really huge there. And I found Shem ben Noach, even before that, when I used to chat in spiritual chat rooms when I was first closer to Tshuva on web TV from Paypack in the day. And there was a woman who was in her 50s who I was chatting with, and she learned the Humash. and something told me this wasn't treif. I didn't know how that could be possible. And she was from Texas, and I just knew this wasn't a treif thing. There was no Yeshu coming in. It's just, I couldn't explain why a Gentile woman with her Humash, whatever, right? Somehow it was okay with me. And she says to me, did you read your art scroll footnote about Malki Tzedek and Abraham? And who's that? I don't remember seeing that and reading that. And it says that Shem was Malki Tzedek. Like, this is, all right, if she's off on this one, I'd say it. I'm out of here. And there it was. She was right. Shem is Malki Tzedek. And it quotes the Midrash. And I'm like, wow, who even knows that? So I've always had this thing for Shem and Malki Tzedek.
So Malki Tzedek is a righteous king?
That's... yeah, so there's a lot of different commentaries of why, what, where, whatever.
I don't know if you heard of it, you said it's like a code name, right?
What's that?
Didn't you say it's like a code name?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of mystical things with it too. So, but it's just an amazing part of the Chumash. It doesn't make sense. Everything else is kind of like, and then this guy said that, and this guy did this, and then Malki said brought bread and wine with Abraham. It's like, it's just really a potent moment. So it's always had a special spot in my heart for Shem ben Noach. And so when Rav Ginsburg led me that direction, and then I found the Rashi, and it's tied in with the Gula, there was so much going on with Shem. And so then Sfat has the cave. I'm saying I'm a big fan of Shem. And so every so often when you read through the Talmud, you'll see a Midrash or Gadata about Shem ben Noach. Like the temple was built by the offspring of Shem. And it was just powerful ideas, but sources with Shem each time. I mean, the wisdom of Mashiach is Shem ben Noach. Like, huh? I mean, this wasn't small potatoes. So after about 10 years of just being interested in Shem, it became stockpiled in my mind. And there was a Noahide in Sfat who I became friendly with. And one day he came to me and he said he went to Shem and apologized because everyone says that Shem sinned with Abraham, which is not true. That's like Ger 101. When people say things that are not true, the party line, when it says that Abraham took the priesthood away from Shem, that's not like a punishment. Right? So if you offered me a cookie and I took the cookie from you, is that a bad thing? Are you punished? No, it's how you speak. So most people just don't think into the Abraham taking the priesthood from Shem as a good thing. It just sounds bad. But no classic commentator describes it as bad. In fact, they describe it as a great thing. Like he bestowed a blessing. But again, when you if you don't care about the Inyan and you're just reading quickly, you just kind of want it to be bad, right? It's how we react to people, right? If someone gives you a dirty look, you don't think, oh, he must have been having a bad day. You say, what's his problem? So Hashem is a big, what's your problem moment. And I was always trying to rationalize and meditate on what was really going on there. And so when Ron went and apologized for, he was like this very passionate Noahide, and at that time I realized that I had a lot to say about Shem ben Noach. So I got involved with Noahide Nations and started teaching the Torah of Shem series, which a lot of people are saying, it's Torah of Moses. There's no such thing as a Torah of Shem. And there is a Torah of Shem. And I remember in yeshiva, every time we get to Parshas told us, and Yaakov learned in the tents of Shem, and everybody says, wow, they had Torah back then? Yeah, they had their little rinky-dinky Torah, they played the hokey pokey, and then they moved on. But again, that's the upset type of answer. But when you look into it, there's a lot written on that Torah that Shem taught Yaakov. So I thought the Jewish people probably don't want to hear so much about a Ben Noach. And that's okay, I don't really mind. But the Bnei Noach of the world probably would love to hear about this Ben Noach. So it was true. And Ray brought me in right away. I met Ross through there. And we had 34 classes on the Torah of Shem. And I didn't want to look stupid and run out of material after like 3 classes. Like, that's it, guys, here's Shem and my 3 midrashim that I know. Have a nice life. So I wanted this to be a long pursuit. I was all in. Because this was really... My teaching of Shem was the culmination of 10 or 15 years of Shem research. So I knew I had enough for at least, literally, I probably could have finished the classes on my own knowledge. But again, I you know how I teach, I like to bring it all in, so I probably could have done it one class. So I went and I bought Otzer Chachma, which is 50,000 books, literally, on hard disk. And I did a search for Shem ben Noach, another one for Malki Tzedek, or as the Noahites say, how you say it? Melchizedek?
Melchizedek.
Melchizedek. And 2,000 hits came up. So I said, I at least have 2,000 classes in me, just in case. And I started scrolling through all the sources and found amazing stuff. So anyone that's read the Sol Mazel book, on the back, we put the midrash that really set it apart from other ones, that Shem went to Gan Eden, all of this different stuff, and no one's ever heard that in the Jewish world. But there's a lot of great midrashim that doesn't make its rounds in the yeshiva world. Just because there's just some that are popular and some that are not popular. And one of the ones that I really liked was that the blue techelis in the tzitzis is in the merit of Avraham, and the white tzitzis is in the merit of Shem for covering Noach. So those kind of ideas was what were coming out. And the people that were into the Shem series back then were saying, I've never heard this. I never heard it either. And there's tons of these. Tons and tons and tons. Then you have your naysayers. We don't learn halakha from midrash. Well, no one's saying we do. It's just an amazing, incredible midrash, pal. And you should appreciate it. And there was just mind-blowing stuff coming out. And then you start to find out that Shem is everywhere. In the most classic commentaries possible, Mikras Gedolos. So when you read Vayetze, Yaakov left Yitzchak and Rivka, and he went to study in the house of Shem, in the house of Aver. Well, there's a class right there. What is the house of Shem? What is the house of Aver? Then you say, who was Aver? And then he was a great prophet, says, I think it was Rashi. And then, for what? And so because his name shows that the generation of the Tower of Babel, the dispersing of the people, was embedded in his name. And so Aver named Peleg that. I guess his son or grandson, whatever it was. But you start to see that pre-Sinai, there was amazing things going on, amazing Torah going on. It wasn't some rinky-dinky Torah going on. And the bigger Chiddush in Jewish circles is pre-Abraham things were going on. So in Sunday school and Hebrew school, or beginner yeshiva, you start with Abraham, and then you everything is Jewish, and everything was Jewish. And if it really wasn't Jewish, we just say it was anyways, because it's all Jewish. But the sources said something different, a whole different story. And it doesn't contradict anything. All it contradicts is the kind of party line that Shem was a Rasha for blessing Abraham before God, which never happened. And you start to see that there was a lot of material. It's just not popular. A yeshiva bacher doesn't go in saying, teach me about Shem ben Noach. Teach me about the non-Jew. It's just not why you go. So with Shem, it was recovering very powerful, not lost Torah. Chaim and I call this an aspect of the Torah of Shem. It's the Torah that no one looks at just because it's not popular. There's a big difference between being out of the Masorah and not popular. Every Beis Midrash in the world has the tractate Yavamis in it. I promise you that. Absolute promise. And nobody in that yeshiva or Beis Midrash will have learned Yavamis at the same time. It's just, there's no reason to learn it, because it's not in the diet. A bacher would learn Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Brachas, Shabbos maybe, Megillah, Tainus. There's certain ones that you just learn, and other ones you just don't learn. So my Rosh Yeshiva used to tell me, he used to always tell me about how it used to be in Brooklyn, you know? And he'd say, Dave, back in Brooklyn, with the guys would stop at the bus stop and they would just talk Yavamis. Yavamis is like a redneck country song. What happens if your brothers, girlfriends, cousins, former roommates, sisters, boyfriend, sister's friend, husbands died and her sister was available, can they marry the guy's brother? So that's how Yavamis goes, because the Levirate marriage. So it goes into these crazy algorithmic processes. So it's just not something you want to learn in yeshiva. But you can, it's not like you can't, it's not what you go to learn. But the Ger Torah, for whatever reason, is one of the 4 hot spots is in Yavamis. So when I teach, I sound kind of weird to some people, because I'm mentioning things and sources that no one's ever heard of. But again, it's completely Masorah. And not even a question. No one's going to say, oh man, that guy learns Yavamis, stay away from him. No one says that. But I never met a guy that learned Yavamis either. So it's kind of it's like, what do you do with that? And so the Shem sources are kind of coming from that. Everybody's learned Chumash Rashi. Not everybody learns the Bolatorim on the Parsha. Now everyone will say it's an amazing Perush, and he's got the Gematrias and the hints, but how many guys actually sat down and learned the Bolatorim? Not many. How many guys learned Onkelos? Not many. At the end of the day, we have a massive Torah, and very little by an individual have they learned. Now that doesn't mean they haven't learned a lot of Torah and a lot of things. It's just the scope for many is narrow. And that's not true for everybody though. Some people have learned Bolatorim, love Bolatorim, to each his own. But there is a more popular way and a less popular. Noahai, Ben Noach, Shem, Ger is in the less popular. And don't confuse less popular with minority are not mainstream. Nobody will say that the Bolotorim is fringe. Nobody would say Yavamas is fringe. But at the same time, don't expect to go to yeshiva and learn Yavamas in one of the classes and all about Shem and all about the Bnei Noach. But some rabbis through history were best friends with Noahides, so to speak. I got into it because my Rosh Yeshiva was Rabbi Rav Yitzchak Hudner, Achad Yitzchak. And we always heard stories about Rav Hutner. And so one day I went to the bookstore and I bought Rav Hutner on Hanukkah, and he was bringing logical proofs from Sheva Mitzvah's Bnei Noach. So from my upbringing in this, Noahide laws were just part of what you do and what you learn. Never seemed foreign. My Rosh Yeshiva is Rosh Yeshiva. And it was just plain and simple. I didn't know what I would know now, that Rav Hutner was one of the biggest Bnei Noach names in history. But again, for everyone that goes to yeshiva, you start to find out that wherever you go, you gain the merit of where you go. And every yeshiva has a merit. You know, this yeshiva learns Rashi special than everybody else. And they'll say, man, I didn't realize how great of a gift my Rosh Yeshiva gave me for learning how to learn Rashi, and all these other guys don't know how to learn Rashi. This yeshiva will say, we do Hilchos Shabbos in our yeshiva. So those guys are all about Shabbos. And they'll say, no one else keeps Shabbos like us. I mean, it's not exactly true to put it that way, but every yeshiva specializes. And that's a gift. You get the gift of where you get your education. I'm sure it's like that everywhere in the world. A Harvard guy will say, I'm better than Yale because Yale doesn't do this, and Columbia's better than Harvard because they know this. Everyone's got their thing. I'm more superior than every other athlete because I was a wrestler and I know that. So everyone's got their thing. So again, I guess from where my coordinate was, I got to see a side of Noahide from an impressionable age that I didn't realize how much I didn't have a choice in this, but it chose me. So from that story, Shem ben Noach to me was always Ben Noach number one. Because when I taught the series, who should I teach it to other than a Ben Noach, the Ben Noach, Shem ben Noach? And I told some guys in the spot, yeah, but they said, what are you teaching now? Yeah, I'm teaching, Shem ben Noach to these Bnei Noach. And he says to me, why Shem and not the other two? I'm like, really? We should talk about Cham? Really? About the Ark, what he did? We should do that, the whole series about Cham? Hey, everybody, this is what Cham did, and the Ark, and is it really? Why would you do that? Because Shem is set aside, Torah-wise, from everybody else in the family. Even, I think, Noah. Noah may be the most famous name, but he's not written about like Shem. So, to get now more towards your answer, in true history, Shem was the Ben Noach. Noah was Noah, the patriarch of it, and Shem was the guy that got the new world going. What's that? That's it. The real Ben Noach was the Ben Noach, the Bnei Noach, the three sons. The Brisker Rav brings that. So like Bnei Noach really is just the three sons. What was commanded to the Bnei Noach? So Shem offered the Torah for 400 years. Every midrash states that fact. Nobody wanted the Torah. We know that fact. Abraham came and accepted the Torah from Shem. We know that fact. They had their song and dance on Har Bayit. We know that fact. Then what happened to Shem afterwards, that's where the Midrashim get mystical. And Abraham became Abraham. And we go from Lech Lecha, and as the Torah starts and everyone's upbringing and education. Abraham, so here's history lesson number one in the overview and history of Bnei Noach. Abraham made souls in Haran. How many of you have ever heard that phrase? Everybody. So, this is a side point. and probably no one's going to give the confirmation to this, but I'll answer for you. How many of you, I'm speaking to you mostly, how many of you have seen that pasuk quoted in other sources to prove another point? You ever seen that?
To prove another point.
Yeah. Blah, 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 like Abraham and Sarah made souls in Haran. Fill in the blank and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I guess when it came to Yitzchak making converts.
Right. I mean, like today, like you'll see the Rabbi Shmekowitz will say, "Hey, everybody, converts are great, and we make converts, and we love people, we love mankind." Blah blah blah. Like Abraham and Sarah made X fill in the blank in Haran.
It's not common, no.
What's that?
It is not a common.
Not common, but it exists. So I'm saying when that phrase exists, I mean, I'm keeping it general on purpose, and I'm going to explain now. That's a copy and paste move. So when people bring that, it's, I mean, here, I'll show you here, for example. That way it's not so vague.
Remember Katz?
Huh?
Did Shem have a relationship with Hashem like Abraham did? Because they're-
Who?
Shem, was he
Yeah.
communicating with Hashem like Abraham
So
was?
I'll answer that in 1 second. Hang on. I want to just bring this quote. There's this great new book called The Laws of Ger Toshav that brings this quote. I thought I brought it. Let's see. It should be here, but I don't want to waste everyone's time looking for it. Anyhow, when taught, usually the topic of making converts, they will copy and paste that pasuk from the Chumash, like Abraham and Sarah. Here it says Abraham, our father, made efforts in this. Okay, so, but they'll quote it as saying like Abraham and Sarah made converts, so to speak. I don't know what it is, but anyways, in the other half of that expression will be enter these people under the wings of the Shekhinah. You've seen that, right? Okay, so when that's brought in halakhic sources, or whatever source, contemporary, the question that'll come up is, who are these Gerim? That's my point. Abraham and Sarah made Gerim. Like the Nefesh, the Nefesh they made in Haran. And then everyone will quote it as they made Gerim. What Gerim? Who are the Gerim?
That same language is under the
That's what I'm saying. Everyone always filters back to that pasuk. That's like one of the earliest psukim, and then it gets copied and pasted and brought out. So there was pre-Sinai, and there were no converts pre-Sinai. So the idea of a ger, non-convert, today, for those that know the sugya, that verse, again, I needed I think chelik aleph. James, you don't have chelik aleph here.
Oh, sorry. I've got it at home.
Yeah, so later on, I think it's in. I'm trying to remember where I got that article from. I think it's in aleph. But that verse is one of the Yesodot foundations. So to go backwards to answer your question, Shem was the first person to receive the blessing from Noach, Baruch Hashem. And it's Lashon Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Right? So, what did Noah ever say? Has anyone ever asked that question? Think about that. What did Noah ever say?
To God?
Huh?
To God?
Anywhere. He only said 3 things in the history of mankind, according to what's written in the Chumash. He gave a blessing to Shem, a statement to Yafis, and a curse to Ham and Canaan. And the blessing to Shem was, remember the Chumash? Yeah, so Noah, and he said, Baruch Hashem, Elohei Shem, Baruch Hashem, Elohei Shem, Vayi Kanan Evid Lamo V'Yafis Elohim V'Yafis V'Yishkom V'Olei Shem. So he said, Baruch Hashem, which we all know what Baruch Hashem is, the God of Shem. So what do you think? Did he have a connection with Kadosh Baruch Hu? Probably so, right? And Canaan is an Evid, a slave to him. And may God extend, Shem Elohim, may God extend Yefis to dwell in the tents of Shem. So when you look in the Onkelos commentary and the Targum Yonason, there's a very, very interesting explanation here. And that is, when we have the tents of Shem, like operative, the right way, Cham is an Evid to the tent of Shem, and Yafis enters the tent of Shem. When we're in exile and things are messed up, then the tents of Shem are destroyed, which is the destruction of the temple. Yafis is in power, which is Greco-Roman, right? He's not in the tent of Shem, and Cham serves him. So that's the world messed up. And as the Onkelos will say, may God extend Yefis, the Yashrei Shechinate b'Mishkanei l'Shem. May God rest the Shechina in the dwellings of Shem. Right, so this is all Shem stuff. So you see, Shem has a blessing from Noah. And Noah only said 3 things. Either going to be blessed Hashem, and then Yafis is in there, and then Cham is an Evid to that, or it's not that, and the world's in exile. So those guys, the Bnei Noach, set up the way the world works. Of forever. And we're not talking the Noahides. That's, all right, when I say Bnei Noach, it's like a cat and a lion. All right, a cat is not a lion. These were lions. These were the Bnei Noach. And the entire world, what would be Sinai, the Beis Hamikdash, Israel, everything, was embedded in those 3 statements of Noach. And so Shem was massive. Utterly massive. The patriarchs were taught by Shem. You know, the Mashiach comes from Shem. Famous thing. Yehuda and Tamar, Zerach and Peretz, Tamar the daughter of Shem. So in the Kabbalah it talks about it even on a higher level. That the blessing of Melchizedek to Abraham was the light of Mashiach ben David. It says, this is Rabbi Yosef Karo said that. Yosef Karo wrote the Shulchan Aruch. It's like, it's probably the most accepted book in all of Torah Judaism. Right? You may not learn Yavamas, but you certainly go by the Shulchan Aruch. And it's undisputed. And so the author of that writes these things about Shem. So Abraham and Sarah make Gerim. And these are your non-idolaters. Gerim.
So you had alcohol that is of Ben Noah.
Hold on that point one. Bring that up in a little bit, but don't forget that. That's important. Not yet though. So the ger is the non-idolater. And the Rambam says that Shem and Aver, where they were lacking, was they hid out in their cave, hiding from Avodah Zarah. Abraham made it accessible and to Makar of the world to reject Avodah Zarah. So Shem had the Torah wisdom, and Abraham had the mitzvahs. There's a midrash like that. That Abraham strengthened Shem, and Shem strengthened Abraham. So that's why the pasuk says, and Abraham went out and made Gerim, or this is the nefesh that they made. And then the Avos learned from Shem, and they were B'nai Noach. I'll bring it in now. They were more B'nai Noach, not literal ones, but they were not Jewish, and they were not idolatrous. So then the question becomes, this is a side point, how did Abraham keep Shabbos like a Jew when we know that if a non-Jew keeps Shabbos, they're chayav misa? So how, and the Talmud says that Abraham kept Shabbos like a Jew. So it's one of those things that goes, we just kind of accept and don't think into it. Most people don't. And when you challenge them on it, it's one of those things that you just say, I don't know. Good question. And there's a lot of those kinds of questions in yeshiva. Ger Torah, as I call it, answers those questions. But the best part of Ger Torah is you don't have to make it up. Because when you get a question that you can't answer, usually you think, here's where I get to make up my answer. Right? How was it that Abraham was able to keep Shabbos like a Jew? I don't know. Let me make up my answer. It must have been because before Sinai that they had a lot of extra land, because extra land is more valuable and things are valuable, so let's keep Shabbos. Does that make sense? Probably not, but it works for me. So you don't have to do that. There are sources out there that answer the question. And we're not talking, again, minority view. We're talking the non-popular view. Non-popular means people just don't learn it. Now, the Abraham learning or keeping Shabbos like a Jew, let's pretend I tell you I found the source. Right? So already, that's going to be like, he's going to bring some goofy Kabbalistic answer. Some Hasidic Rabbi probably said it drunk on Purim once. A conservative rabbi answered it for his congregation once. I just made it up. I'll fudge the source and lie about it to make it sound good. Usually it's going to be something like that, right? What are the chances that it's like a hardcore, classic, not popular, but 100% accepted in every Orthodox institution on planet Earth? What do you think?
I heard an answer.
What's the answer?
The reward census.
How's it the answer?
Since a non-Jew is not commanded in the census, if he was not a Jew, then he was carrying on Shabbos. He wasn't sure.
Right. So who told you that answer?
I can't remember.
Right. So that's a wonderful svara.
It is.
It's a svara. But would that be an answer that would satisfy? Like that is the answer.
No, it's a brilliant answer.
What's that?
It's a brilliant answer.
It's an answer. But if you can't source it, how does it work?
When we're sitting here listening to you, we don't ask you what the source is of every sentence
Right.
that comes out of your mouth.
But I mean, I would be curious to see where that is sourced. Not to say that it's right or wrong. Just it's interesting who said it, right? And it makes a difference who said it.
Yeah, sure.
So
I have no reason to think that my teachers would be lying to me.
right, but it's a question of there's a hierarchy in a certain sense in sourcing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When it's properly sourced, when it's svara, when it's halachic, you know what I'm saying? It's how the sources work in the hierarchy. It doesn't determine right or wrong, good or bad. It's more about, does it satisfy the Indian or not, right? So the question specifically is brought up by the Brisker Rav and answered by the Brisker Rav. And it's part of a greater sugya. That's what I'm getting at, right? The concept of the non-Jew in halacha, which is why we're really here today. And it's the overall message that I'm bringing this out everywhere I go. And it's what hopefully this book achieved. I don't know if I did achieve it. I hope I did. And I guess I'm going to start just tying a lot of things in, right? Is that there's one sugya for the non-Jew in Torah. And it's a massive, massive sugya. I like to describe it as the Amazon rainforest, right? It's not like one couple little sources. It's vast, and it's everywhere, and it's always the same copy and paste lingo. That's why I said about the Abraham Sarah thing, making the souls of Chara. And you start to see that everyone works within the sugya. I'm sure you've learned a sugya that you can see the continuity. That's a tight, universal sugya, right? So when people are discussing the sugya, you know when they're discussing it based on how it sounds. And when a guy is not in the sugya, he may have a good answer, but it's not the sugya. You see what I'm saying? It's not, again, not right or wrong. It's just, is it the sugya or not the sugya? And what I've really learned, what Brisk does, because I am a Brisker, you know, and I try to always figure out what is he doing, you know? 'Cause that's always you got to follow. You ever learn Brisker stuff? So it's very complicated to follow. Yeah. And I figured out finally, after like over a decade of working on it, what he's telling you is the thing that you're tripped up on. He'll bring like a Rambam, right? There's a stira between this and that, and how does it work out? Because it shouldn't work out. And he'll go to this tractate over there, and then it's at the end of the day, it just kind of, he answers it in a roundabout way. What he's doing is he's saying, this is very advanced, not that you can't get it, but let me help you and just tell you the map of where it's all at. It's one Shas Sugya, and you got to look at 5 different Masechtas, and you'll see that's how it works out. And Rav Moshe Soloveitchik taught me this, right? He's, Malach Shadis Rikla Gufa, yeah? He said, you cannot understand that unless you learn Rav Chaim on this. Period. And I know this, I've always struggled on this. Like in Shabbos, if you do a labor not for its own sake, are you guilty for doing the labor or not? So most people say, a very simple way of understanding it, you're not. You got to know that you're doing the labor to be guilty of doing the labor. You got to want to do the labor. But it's not so simple. And so the Brisker Rav tells you how to understand this vast terrain, to understand a very simple concept. And at the end of the day, you don't understand the concept unless you understand the concept. And you're probably not smart enough to figure it out. Again, that's his portion of giving you the Torah. So if you want to know it, he gives you the sugya and the Talmudic discussion, and then you know it. So Ger, the non-Jew in Torah, is part of that thinking. It's part of a bigger framework, and it's massive. And the guys that are in that framework speak a jargon and vernacular of the topic. And those that are not in the topic doesn't make them bad. It just makes them not in the topic. And you can see who's in and who's not in. It's like jeans. You know, quality jeans and not quality jeans. And you might like not quality jeans, but there's a certain style of quality. Brisker Rav is very craftsmanship, bringing you the entire bigger picture. That's why the Brisker method is fantastic, at least in terms of historical truths. No one says he's a Shagitz, right? Or no Aretz. No one says that. I mean, that's universal. Everyone's got their complaints on this Rebbe or that Tzaddik or this or that, but I never heard anyone say the Brisker Rav couldn't learn. So he says that Avraham was a ben Noach. And the question is, how could Avraham the ben Noach keep Shabbos if a goy that keeps Shabbos is chayav misa? And the answer is that Avraham had attained Shem Yisrael, the name Israel, which is different than being Israel or any kind of attachment to Judaism, Jewish. So this is where, you guys that know my stuff, where we call it the Iker term. Shem Yisrael is an Iker term. You don't need to define it and give it mashma'ut, inclinations to it. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. It means there's something called Shem Yisrael, and that was on him. Now again, we kind of know what it means from context, but what you need to know is it doesn't mean he was Jewish. It means he attained a level called Shem Yisrael, different getter.
Can I ask you a tough question?
Yeah.
After Matan Torah, after the beginning of Torah,
Yeah.
is that capable?
Hang on one second. So, a convert after Matan Torah will receive Shem Yisrael and Kedushas Yisrael, the name of Israel and the holiness of Israel. That person is now Israel, a Jew. And last time I checked, they can keep Shabbos. Right? A convert can keep Shabbos like a Jew. So then why do we need the 10 Commandments to tell us that a convert can keep Shabbos like a Jew? Unless the ger in the 10 Commandments isn't a convert. Because we should all know that a convert keeps Shabbos like a Jew. So who is the ger in the 10 Commandments that is commanded to rest on Shabbos? That's a rhetorical question. I'll answer that in a minute. And so Abraham did not take a mikveh, according to Lefi Pshuto halachic view of the text.
So you have to take the Kedusha.
He did not have Kedushas Yisrael. He had Shem Yisrael. And he had a circumcision, and so he was able to do Israel things without being Israel. And he made Gerim. I mean, he reiterated that program. And so let's say that goes on to the patriarchs. And that goes on to the Shvatim. Then we're going to go and be exiled into Egypt. And then you start getting into the Haggadah on Passover, and you start to see that this ger thing is all over Egypt. And that's where everyone wants to start doing converts everywhere. And the question starts to become, when it says ger, anywhere in text, which ger? Until recently, in the English-speaking world, ger is convert. So everybody was a convert. Antoninus was a convert. Does that really make sense? The Romans were converts. So they were keeping Shabbos, is that right? They were eating gefilte fish, right? But we'll get to that point a little bit later about the text and convert and ger. Remind me to go back to your question after I'm going to finish up where we are here. So we're going to come out of Egypt, Erev Rav, and go to the land, and a lot of things are going on, speaking generally, and all of a sudden we get into the land, and a lot of things happen. You can tell I'm speaking generally on purpose. The point is, eventually in the land we meet the Kenites, Ross, and we have these people, the Rechabites, and ites and ites and ites and ites, and these ites were certainly not converts. And most English commentaries will even admit they weren't converts, even though some may insist on using the word convert. But then they'll usually say they were bad converts. They were only bad converts because they weren't converts. They were Gerim. And like the Kennedys of the Gerim were the Rechabites. They had a special oath and covenant from God. And so very, very, very special Gerim in the first temple. It's the Jews that weren't exactly doing their job, steeped in Avodah Zarah. So we're going to get in trouble for that, exiled out of the land, destroy the temple. The 10 tribes are going to be exiled, and as the Midrash states, Gerim were exiled with the tribes. This is where you get the idea in your Shalmi Sanhedrin. There's a couple different opinions that are like this, that the 10 tribes will not return except to be Gerim. And again, Ger in text will tell you if it's convert or non-Jew or whatever. So then we're going to go to Babylon for 70 years, and Purim's going to happen. A very interesting thing with Purim's going to happen. We accept Gerim, and Gerim have in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Mishnah Brura, which is, again, nobody says that the Mishnah Brura is not accepted in Judaism, right? So it's just, I like the fact that with these kind of sources, it's not like Rabbi Shmelowitz said, I'm talking about the Mishnah Brura here, that Gerim have an opportunity to keep Purim, and the commentators say that the Jews attracted Gerim, and the Vilna Gaon says it the most explicit that these were, and literally, these were non-Jewish Gerim. And so when Israel is awesome, a lot of non-Jews like to attach and become Gerim. If Mashiach came right now, you would find about 7 billion Gerim on earth. And this has happened in history. David and Solomon and the times of Purim. Rabbi Nachman brings that Yaakov was like a shmata because he was making Gerim, and if he wouldn't have been treated like a shmata, then the Gerim would not have been for the sake of heaven. Because how do you make a convert today? You say, why are you here? Don't you know that Israel is a lowly nation? And so Gerim also. You're a true Ger when we're not awesome. When we're awesome, of course you want to be a Ger. Why wouldn't you? So the Gerim came out. They're called Gerei Mordechai and Esther in the Talmud. And then we're going to go build the second temple. And a lot of different things are going on. And the weird sects of like Pharisees and all these things. And I never saw this inside, but I guess the New Testament talks about the God-fearers, right? And mostly everybody, I even saw one of the Noahide organizations say that those were the Noahides of their day. So, yeah, right. So that's like a famous Noahide kind of thing from Christianity, which is interesting. Obviously, when the church is going to happen, the church, from my experience working with Noahides, is the 180-degree rule of Ger. Right? When there's no Ger, religion says we're Ger. You know, we are the righteous non-Jew, and it's just 100. It's like it's the bizarro version of it. Jews then reject that Gentile, and for good reason. Right? Everyone goes their way, and I'm making it very general. And so there's going to be a lot of bloodshed for the next 1,500 years or so. Everyone knows what happened. Somebody will convert every now and then, but you're really risking your life, and the Jew's risking his life, and so it just didn't happen. The Rabbi says that that's why you don't find it written a lot of stories or communities of Gerim B'nai Noach through the Christian era, because it was too rare. It just didn't happen. And so when Rabbi Melowitz would make a convert or a ger, he didn't publicize it because it was a one-off. So it happened, but it was a one-off. When, in my opinion, I mean it's a strong opinion I think, but it's still my opinion, that when Israel becomes a state in 1948, that rhymed. Jews are news. And what the Jews don't know is that when the Jews are news on that level, that's like Purim and making Gerim. Meaning when there's a newspaper article, the state of Israel was formed, when that headline went out, every non-Jew in the world said, wow, this thing is really happening. Yeshu is coming back to his people, right? But that went out. That's what was thought. And the Jews are like, okay, go Zionism, yay. It's different worlds. Different world completely. And then you have 67. And the headline in USA Today read, the Jews conquered the Temple Mount. And the Christians say, like, wow, Yeshu really is here. You have Christian Zionism, and it's like, they're believing this story. Like, the Bible's real. The Jewish people are on their land. And the Jews are saying, like, wow, I can now go to Yerushalayim and get a falafel. This is amazing. So you have different worlds. And as Zionism grows post-67, I feel guilty because as a kid, no one really taught us what the Six-Day War was. I think now it's becoming more mainstream education, but that was some serious miracles going on. How do they not teach us that in Hebrew school? They're just like, yeah, it was a 6-day war, we just won. Like, oh, wow, okay, cool. But that's not what happened. And so the non-Jews apparently knew that. And there's a lot of things going. So at that time, you're going to have Vendel Jones. And he's going to become King Noahide for whatever reason. Huh? Yeah, he was like involved somehow.
He was colorblind.
Yeah, you can see the forts. Was there Noahide in 1920? Maybe. I don't know. There wasn't multimedia. There was 2 world wars. In the 1800s already, again, that was still pretty Christian and stuff. What's interesting though is in the 19th century, George Bush, one of the altar Bushes, wrote a commentary on Ezekiel. And he was a really big figure in Protestant Christian thinking and early Christian Zionism. And their take on it was, why, and this is written, I've read this, I have it on my computer. Why don't we put the Jews on their land, literally like Ezekiel says, and then Yeshu will come back? It doesn't have to be a spiritual thing. Let's literally put them there. Now he wrote that in 1844. 100 years later it happened. Right? The nations put the Jews there for that reason. I'm not saying that's the only reason. There's a billion. Everyone knows the conflict has a billion reasons. But from a Christian Zionist point of view, the Jew was put on the land. Like, we're going to put you here because we want our story to come true. And the Jew didn't even care. We were willing to go to Uganda. It didn't even matter. So it was oblivious. But again, long story short, by the time of Vendel, and again, just from the stories that I've heard from people, and you all know the story from that point on, former Baptist minister making Noahides, gets the Lubavitcher Rabbi involved at a certain point, gets Chaim Korfin involved at a certain point, got Bob Wells involved at a certain point. And in the 80s, they had the Noahide books coming out, and the radio stations in Texas, and Sam Pete doing his thing. I think a lot of non-Jews, from what I understand, started learning the Old Testament, second-guessing the New Testament. It started coming out, so you start to have some kind of awareness. But I know Chaim told me he got a lot of snail mail, not emails, but envelopes were coming. Right? He lived in Israel, and Rabbi Korfin, I love your book, and help us out, but that was snail mail, so what could you really do? And Chaim would write back, and he never really talked about it when I first met him in 2001. And so then Temple Institute will do its thing and really start rounding people up and making it accessible to be called a Noahide. And then obviously I think when the computer age hit, I think that's when everyone got online and started to make it uniform to identify. So there was always what I'm calling the Ger that didn't believe and did his own thing, because Ger is a historical from the beginning of time, from a million different reasons. Why does the the non-Jew not believing Yeshu. Because there's a ger in the world, always was. And until the technology, non-literal type, but even spiritual technology came out, what are you going to do about that? You don't know, you don't live near Jews. The world wasn't set up for travel. I mean, I remember when I called London as a kid to my sister in like late 80s. You remember what that was like? Like the wires under the ocean floor, like it's way like a minute delay. Like the world couldn't do it. So when technology, I think by mid 2000s, and we had the virtual yeshiva going, and now it could happen. I think look, everything in the world got sped up, didn't it? And so everything is happening now. You can travel to Australia, and it's not even a big deal. Back when I was a kid, it was a big deal. You just didn't do that. And obviously, the older generations, it was more of a big deal.
You're not held back by anything. It's
Right.
As fast as you can actually take it in.
Right.
As fast as you.
That's it. And it's just getting faster, incredibly faster. And does that answer, I think, pretty much the history overview of Noahide?
Yeah, very comprehensive. But how does the Noahites feel special? Like when you're Jewish, you feel special. Like God loves you. You have all these holidays.
Yeah.
And you're.
How does the Noahide feel special?
Yeah, like how do
They
they
are-
find their place like in the Rukmi? Like,
So
where-
Bob will disagree with this, but from my opinion and point of view, and it's not a nice opinion or a nice point of view, they are told they're not special, don't be special, don't even think of being special. Get that out of your head, they're not special. We call special people converts. If you're special, you convert. Now that might not be said on the homepage of the organization.
Or they call you special and then you try and get them to define it.
Right. I mean, that's really, that question is the plight of the Noahide.
Where do
Is-
we put you?
Every Noahide, non-Jew, whatever, thinks they're special. Because everybody's special. And that's not what we say in kindergarten. That's a truism. It's in kindergarten, they corrupt that idea. Oh, we're all special, Johnny. We're all special. What's upsetting is Johnny is special, and you're ruining his life by making him learn things he shouldn't even learn. But we won't get into that. So it's the same elementary thinking, right? Hey, Rabbi, I rejected Jesus, and I believe in the God of Israel. And what he's always saying is, am I special? And I was like, yes, you're so special. But should you convert? Because if I catch you keeping Shabbos, the way they keep Shabbos is Chayav Misa. How special are you now? And it goes there. In some way, shape, form, whatever, it's going to get down to that. Because the non-Jew is trying to get at, it's not about special or not special. Can I keep Shabbos? Let's cut to the chase. Rabbi, I like you, you like me. Huh?
Are they trying to have a connection?
Yeah.
Isn't that what special means?
Exactly. I mean, that's it.
I
And
want
so
to know
once
what
it gets
to
down
do.
to tachlis,
I want to know what to do.
yeah, I want God, I want Shabbos, I want, for whatever reason I don't want is to convert. I live in Idaho, I don't want to divorce Marge, whatever it is. Rabbi, I'm just not going to convert. And the rabbi knows we don't proselytize. Everyone knows that. But at the same time, how do I, the rabbi, justify special Noahide Jim? And Noahide Jim is not a Pashut Goy to me. He's a special one. How do I justify that in my head? And you'll see this on social media today. That, to me, non-halakhically, because the halakhic arguments are a different one, that's probably the most emotional and disturbing argument going on the internet today. And it's painful.
You can actually turn a non-Jew, it's actually turning a non-Jew off.
Right.
Turn them off.
And it's such a turn off. And I watched I unfortunately everyone sends me the videos. Watch what this rabbi did, and I watch, and it's in the Kiruv fringe circles, and you watch it happen, and it's anything but halakhic going on, and that's my argument, is that they're not treating it halakhically. If you want to treat it halakhically, it's called Ger Toshav. Go learn the sugya. That's all we're saying. That's what the message is. And it's very easy to learn. But the problem is, I never heard it before, so how could it be true or this or that? Well, did you learn Yavamis and about your sister's brother's cousin's boyfriend's girlfriend who wants to get married to the dead guy's sister?
So what you just said is there's not Israel and then non-Israel.
What's that?
What you just said is that there's not Israel and then just non-Israel. There's also something going on.
The different Gadara.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hold on one second, too. What'll happen is, you from a non-halakhic point of view, you can see where people are at in this maze that we're in. I hate to put it in a trite way, but a trained rabbi should really be able to see where people are at. It's not that hard. Maybe I can articulate it a little bit better from the sources than others, but I think we can all share the experience. So like when I get a Skype phone call, and the person will type in a way that's unrecognizable, which means they don't know anything. They have not been around Jews. They don't know what to say, and it's going to come across as just odd. Whereas someone, if James, if we were to pretend that I didn't know James right now, and he were to send me a message, he would say, "Hi, Rabbi Katz, you don't know me. My name is James Gosnell. I'm friendly with the Lubavitch community in Chicago, and I was just wondering what your opinions are of Rambam 10:9." I don't know James, but that guy has been around for a while, and I don't have to worry about that guy. He's on his way, and he knows what he's doing. The flip side of that would be something like in all capital letters coming through IPM and saying, Hi, Rav Katz. I left the church about a month ago, and I believe I'm Ger Toshav." So, okay, hi, what's your name? My name's Stephen, and I'm Ger Toshav. Okay, Stephen, great. So nice to meet you. Did you ever think about reading The World of the Ger? Have a nice day. Let me know how that goes. I'm not going to invite him to class because he doesn't know what class is. He needs to, he's just where he's at. So when the rabbis meet these groups, it's very, you can just tell who's who and what's what. It's not to be degrading anything, just people are at different levels. That's what Ger's about, the different levels. My point is, when you see someone like James, let's say, just to point out in the crowd, don't say, "Oh, well, you must be a lost Jew. How else could I rationalize this non-Jew who knows the Rambam? You must be a lost Jew, and that's why I feel I can talk to you." So, I thought we don't proselytize. Why does everybody have to be a Jew? And so if I had a relationship with James and we started learning, and I'm going to call him a goy, I'm going to call him Akum, I'm going to call him Nachri, and all these things. But it's going to occur to me that something's not right with James. He doesn't respond well to these terms, and I feel a little guilty calling him a goy and chayav misa and all this. So I'm going to say, "Look, James, I do conversion classes. Maybe you'd like to convert." And unfortunately, James isn't going to hear any other option coming from me. So no one will say it this harshly.
But it's polarizing.
It's polarizing, and if you call me on it, what I'm really saying is you're either a goy or convert.
Yeah.
Now, I won't put it that rude, but that is what I'm saying.
You're completely detached from Hashem, or you're not.
That's it. And it's like nobody wants to think that low and nasty. And these are good people on both sides. But they're letting religion corrupt the humanity. And the good news about it is religion has the answers, and the infrastructure, and the wisdom, and the historical precedent, and the path to go forward. We are not abandoned by God, but we act abandoned by God.
If you don't want to do this now, that's fine, but Symphony's a head count for lunch, we can get lunch going.
What's that?
Simcha needs a head count for lunch. Could you make a quick announcement about lunch and see who wants to go to his house for?
Yeah, at what time?
It's going to be after 6, a little after 6.
Anybody that wants to go to a barbecue at Simcha's after around 6 p.m., just raise your hand. Hi. Raise your hand. Hi.
Okay, so I got 8 people.
So what was your earlier question? Remember?
Matan Torah, pre-Matan Torah versus
Yeah, okay.
Abraham and
Right.
Ben Noah.
Right. So we kind of finished a certain stream, right? We touched on a lot of things. Abraham was a goy. He was an idolater. He somehow, some way, rejected idolatry. Again, I have the answer to this. We're going to speak generally. And he found God, kept Shabbos like a Jew, and God commanded him in Bris Milah. I'm a Noahide, and I rejected idolatry. I want to keep Shabbos too. Again, you can see I'm missing a lot of points, and I'm doing that on purpose. Can I learn from that? Can I be like Abraham? As I want to tell my rabbi, I'm just like Abraham. I threw my dad's tchotchkes on the floor, and I want to be like Abraham. So the answer we'll get back is you can't be like Abraham. One answer, there's many answers you can give. You can't be like Abraham because Abraham was before Sinai. So Abraham went out from stars and constellations. We all know that idea. And he came under the providence of God, the God of Israel. And
for the just posterity in the video, under stars and constellations, that is an actual term.
I didn't want to get into that.
Okay.
On purpose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm Dafka not bringing that one in. So the question is, can I, the Noahide, be like Abraham? Now, if you ask questions like that vague, you didn't say anything. That's why you notice when you're probably not interested in what I just said for the last 30 seconds, because I didn't say anything. And James was trying to get me to say something. And I didn't say anything. So if you don't say anything, you're going to get a non-answer. Can I be that? No. Okay. Bye. Have a nice. You see, that's the conversation. No, nothing got exchanged. No ideas, no heartfelt connections. Nothing happened. The only way anything will happen is if you say what needs to happen. And the hardest part of the message is to be able to say what needs to be said for it to happen. That takes a lot of time and hard work. Extreme hard work. Because if you say Abraham was under the stars and constellations, what does that mean? We've all read that in our scroll. And then Abraham was told by God to go out from the stars and constellations. So that means he didn't get his palm read by astrologers. What does it mean? Anyone, what does it mean? What is idolatry? I don't even. What is that? What really is that? Well, I don't do no idolatry. What don't you do? Huh? Shitu.
So stars and constellations are a part of creation.
Yeah.
But they are still lofty.
Well, I asked my rabbi, and he said that there is no religions today of Shituf. I don't even know what Shituf is.
It means that he had direction from God. That's what he had.
Right.
So therefore, he was able to stop searching, because then
Right.
he had like a roadmap.
Right. So again, these are the kinds of questions that everybody is dying to know the answers to. And the answers are there. Again, it's like the Brisker Rub thing. Like, These answers exist. That's what's so amazing about this stuff. The answers are out there. But no one is not no one, but it's not common and popular to go and find these answers. And when you try to sell it to like a speaking engagement, like, hi, it's Rabbi David Katz, I'll be in your town, and I'm here to lecture about the rejection of shituf. And they're like, sorry, that's not for us. But you're a kollel and you learn Gemara, and it's a very deep brisker Indian, you really love it. No, sorry, Devil. We're teaching about how to clean matzah up off the floor after Pesach this year. We don't have time for you.
Isn't that Lech Lecha? Isn't your answer the Parsha Lech Lecha?
What's that?
Right. That's right. Abraham didn't need.
Yeah, and that's what I'm gonna get to that now.
Okay.
So I'm saying when people mention the word idolatry, what is that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I know what it is, but what is that really? I mean, you're gonna picture like the Baal, right, the Chumash, and the Midian and all that, like the disgusting things they did. Is that what Christians are doing? Is that what we're rejecting? The Baal? The Baal doesn't exist today. That's already like step one in Avodah Zarah of the Torah. You know, so I mean, already in my mind, even just I said it, I think the word Avodah Zarah does more. I think even for people that don't know it, than the word idolatry. Idolatry is that English word. I honestly don't know what idolatry is. When I hear myself saying it, and I divorce myself from what I know it is, and put it inside the word idolatry, I really don't get it. And I have to like contrive and make myself get it. But once you say he went out from Avodah Zarah, okay, now I get it. Now, I don't know what Avodah Zarah is yet, but I think we can all agree something about it resonates a little clearer if we say Abraham rejected Avodah Zarah. It's something about it sounds a little more official and a little bit less subjective. Because idolatry can be whatever I say it is. Well, idolatry is, that's when money is God to you. It's all about money. Abraham he wasn't a capitalist. And, that's why when we leave capitalism, we're like Abraham. And we don't worship the God's son. George Washington was like a god. And we don't worship. You hear those guys? It's a YouTube video. An hour about how George Washington is God and we don't worship money. Okay, it's a great entertaining hour. I understand that. But we're not accomplishing anything by making these little analogies. So Avodah Zarah, we're going to now a little bit more technical in the class today. What is Avodah Zarah? Anyone know?
Strange servitude, strange worship. So we're apply.
I'll give you a hint. It's an ikr. The ikr is the Torah level and definition of Avodah Zarah is the worship of the 7 Canaanite nations. That's what Avodah Zarah is.
Was that applicable for Jews and non-Jews?
What's that?
Is that definition a working definition for Jews and non-Jews?
We haven't gotten that far into the development of creation. We're talking that the Torah itself defines, from Sinai onward, you are guilty of Avodah Zarah when you worship like the 7 Canaanite nations. If you are not worshiping like the 7 Canaanite nations, you did not do Avodah Zarah. Period. Now, pre-Sinai and I guess pre-Canaanite, they were not under Din Torah. So it doesn't really matter what they defined as technical Avodah Zarah or not. I guess there might be a source that would say, but for our discussion, it doesn't really matter. Because if I say, wow, did you do Avodah Zarah like Lamech? I don't know. But in the times of the temples, you were guilty of Avodah Zorah when you did Avodah Zorah like the 7 Canaanite nations. And King David would have known what that would have meant, and he would have found you guilty. So when prophecy was taken away and the taiva for Avodah Zorah, the advent of religion came into the world. So the wisdom of Avodah Zorah was gone. You cannot do Avodah Zorah if you don't know how to do Avodah Zorah. You have to know how to do it. Which begs the question, why did they do Avodah Zorah? This is an important question. It's a very important question. Why does someone do Avodah Zorah?
It's a power greater than themselves.
What's that?
It's a power greater than themselves.
Why? Just is that fun? Is it exciting? What are you accomplishing? What are you doing?
Today or in those days?
In those days. Now, on the flip side, why do you worship God? Why do you worship God? What is the worship of God? Why are we worshiping God? What are you doing? I mean, what is it you're really doing that you need God in your life? Not just because you have to, and you feel guilty not. What tangibly? What is God in your life?
You're believing in
I have Star Wars for that. I can believe Star Wars theology, and I will be just as satisfied in my belief system.
When you're worshiping God, it means that you're rejecting the Big Bang Theory.
But is it just, are you saying I can get a lot of satisfaction by watching Stephen Hawking in string theory, if I want to believe? And there are people that have a religion of Star Trek, and it is more than satisfying.
When I believe in God is something that I give to you.
Why do you have to believe anything?
Well, it's not.
I mean, is your mind so bored that it just has to be occupied with beliefs? If that was it, let's just walk around with a checklist and read what you believe all day. I believe there is a God. I believe He is one. I believe God is good. I am beyond holy right now. It's not just beliefs. God is an active agent in our lives. So I'll give you the answer according to Kabbalistic thought, which to me is just shot. God has a function. He is the creator of this world. How many of you have read the blessing after the meal? How many of you know what the blessing after the meal is about? I'm going to put you on the spot here because you say it every time, but you know what it is. What are you saying to God when you bless on the meal?
Thank you for all the food.
Honestly?
My sense of fail.
As you're eating the corn of the cob, shkoyach, God, gosh, it's great corn of the cob. Shkoyach, this is fantastic. And then you bench a special blessing to say shkoyach in a very serious way. It's got to be more than that.
It's way more than that. It's thank you for the sustenance.
Is it thank you?
I bless
The creator of the world created you just so that you could say thank you?
No. No, of course it's going to be deeper than just a thank you.
So what is the deeper concept than thank you? There's a word.
You're elevating.
Is it an English word?
It is.
Oh.
Bless.
No. How about appreciate? Recognize. God doesn't need you to eat His food in order for you to recognize Him. He's giving you the food whether you eat it or not. So this has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do about you. So what happens if you take yourself out of the equation? Then what's the reality?
It's about Hashem.
Huh?
It's
No, that's about you saying that. You're not in the equation to say that's about God. What is God doing?
Everything.
What is everything?
Sustaining.
He is creating creation.
So that
He's giving the creation.
So that he can be appreciated?
Eventually. But the word actually is shefa. God gives shefa to creation. Now, God does that whether you know that, recognize that, want to appreciate, whatever it is. God's job, when He creates the world, He says, I'm God, this is what I do. I sustain and give goodness to creation. I give shefa to creation. This is why there's reward. You don't get reward, so if I behave really, 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 really good, I get really great, good stuff. God says, I give reward, and you take reward. And you got to learn how to receive your reward. Then you start to say, well, I don't want reward that bad. Because you don't want reward. Because it's not easy or fun getting reward from God. It's like your parents say, you're going to go out on Thursday night after you mow the lawn. Oh. So I got to mow the lawn. All 25 acres. Great. Thursday night's looking amazing. Wow. Shkoyach. Right? And then he says, well, you're going to appreciate that mowing the lawn. And when you're my age, you'll know what it was to mow the lawn. I can't wait to be like you, Dad. Thanks. Shkoyach. I appreciate it. So God gives. Judaism, Torah, is, I guess, the theology, right, of how to receive from God. And let's just say that was given to Adam. And Adam got it down after he sinned. He figured it out, to deal with tshuva and everything. And he worked it out. God gives, and when I cooperate according to Torah, it just makes receiving from God a little bit better. Because you don't want God to give you from Klippa. Then it gets a little dicey. Right? You want to do your best in the holiest way possible to make that connection work. And all relationships are like that. And with God is the ultimate relationship. And you don't have a choice if you're going to, what are you going to not eat? I'm going to strike God. I don't want anything. Don't feed. He created the creation. You must receive from God. So let's just say that avodas Hashem is the hardest thing in the world. And He gave a Torah and wisdom so that you can make, not easier, you know what I'm saying, you get better, you get more skilled and mature in receiving from God. That entire game is called serving God, believing in God, go God, that whole stuff. But God made the world with a lot of back doors and secret pathways. Like for angels to work, and Maisa Bereshis to work, Sod, secret, Kabbalah, a lot of mystical ways. What if I learn Kabbalah and mysticism and pervert and manipulate the ways and make it easier on myself to get what I want, and I'll deal with God kind of on the side? Can I do that? Meaning, if I sin with wisdom, I can still get my stuff a little dirtier, a little more klippa, but hey, it's pretty fun and awesome. So we'll call that avodah zarah, strange worship, idolatry. I don't know how the 7 Canaanites did it, and I don't want to know. But let's make for an analogy, right? Let's say, again, I'm making this up, but there's the Nile River. We know that, like with Pharaoh, the Nile would flood, right? And it would do the crops, whatever that whole game was. So, if we wanted to get Shefa, and we've learned that if we corrupt the earth, the Nile flooding is more rich, and it gives produce, and it's good. Because otherwise I got to trust God. And for the last 3 years there was a drought. And then it gets really, really shady, and then we don't know what to do. And they say that in Tanakh all the time, right? And God tested the people. Right? That's how God does it. God makes it that way. As we were talking yesterday at the conference, the natural world is a very, very dangerous place. The crocodiles are starving, sitting in their little pond, waiting for the wildebeest to come, and the seasons change, and the destined moment of destiny, they got to get their water. One croc's got to eat. What's going to happen? And the one that loses is the one that didn't deal with the weather conditions the right way. Life has to gamble. And eventually someone's got to give, and either the wildebeest gets its water, the croc goes another day, or the croc just won a beast and everyone ate. That's how God maintains creation. There's only one God, and He maintains the creation the same way. And you're the same way. You also freak out, right? You have your things going on, and payday came 5 days late, and the water's going down, and you're getting thirsty and hungry, and you have a choice. Do you want to gamble and lose? Right? I really can't afford to take a loan, but I really want this new stuff. What if I go to a loan shark and I'll just pay it back? But I can't pay it back, but God willing, it'll happen. Just a gamble. Now you just did a little bit of avodah zarah. Right? Not in the literal sense, but you're gambling. You went away from God. That would actually be called shituf. Because you're saying, God can't get me my shefa, so I'm going to take from the loan shark and get a loan. I can't pay it back. So, my cousin Steve always bails me out. Good old Steve will get me through it. Steve is God. Why? Because God is not giving you your stuff. You're going to Steve. And what you're saying is Steve can get your stuff. So Steve is like God. Now, if you're relying on Steve, you're relying on a lot of other things that are shituf as well. So hold on a second. So your shituf world probably adds up. You probably do a lot of Steve stuff. So the more holy you are with God, you do less dodgy things. You say, I'm not going to get a shady loan. I'm going to have betachon, and God will do. Now, if God gets Steve to give it to you, that's God's choice. You don't have the right to tell God how you're getting it. God tells you how it's coming. So idolatry, 7 Canaanite, is when you have the wisdom of how to pervert and manipulate creation to get you your stuff. And usually it comes with serious backside stuff. Serious backside stuff. We don't need to get into what that is. You know what it is. It was a savage world for that reason. Just like the wolf doesn't eat the rabbit for fun. Just sin wasn't done for simple pleasure and fun. It's the currency to get your stuff. That's avodah zarah. When you do it with wisdom. Thank God that wisdom's gone. And the Torah was brought into the world to fight out that wisdom. It's called learn how to go right to God the right way. But then they found a secret in the days of Enosh. What if we believe in God? Let's not get rid of God, God forbid, because that's too much. God gets mad. There's floods and stuff, and we don't want that. But let's add powers to God. Let's make it the shefa we know from God wisdom comes through creation. Right? The Nile floods when Mercury is lined up with Venus in a 5-year period. And we know that from our astronomical and astrological wisdom, which is kosher wisdom, because the shefa does come that way. The gravitational pull, and the creation itself, you can predict how the shefa is going to go. So let's just say God created it, and I'll worship Venus, because this is easier. I know there's going to be plenty for the next 5 years because of where Venus is with Mars. So I'll just worship that. Make it a little bit easier. We'll have a little religion called the Venus-Mars alignment religion.
Just give thanks to it.
Just give thanks to it. It's easier. I'm going to get my stuff anyways. So I'm just going to live next to the Nile River, and I moved there in that 5-year period, and look at that, the Nile flooded. Thank you, Venus, Mars God. You really came through. And then we'll do little festivals and songs and dances. They can organize religion. And then we get the wisdom of the Shituf. Because remember, those are powers in creation.
I never get to see the king, but I see the sheriff all the time. I'll thank him.
That's it. So the more you embrace the Shituf, you emerge in it. So if I have to move from my work, I'll go on the Shituf network. Right? I'll go to the other Shituf spot. God forbid you should go where God wants you to be. So the world starts to arrange itself according to Shituf. Now it's not quite Avodah Zarah. Shituf. And there are powers with God.
So Mars and Venus would be the Shitu?
Well, today it's called Christianity and Islam.
Well,
and
right, but in that scenario.
Yeah, you're using the Shefa comes through the world, and you are just giving thanks and worshiping the powers of Shefa.
You could still believe in God.
Yeah.
But you're giving thanks to something that comes down from it. Instead of saying thank you God for life, you're saying, heaven forbid, you'd say thank you Son for life.
Right. Let's say, imagine if Rabbi Weinsteiner, thank God, let us use his shul today. But I say, I believe there is a Rabbi Weinsteiner, but I'm going to give all my thanks to James for setting this up. That's a total chutzpah. Complete chutzpah. Right? And I totally disregard the reality, and I just give and then I say, hey, James, how did it go? And you're like, well,
Yeah.
you kind of, but you're going to, because you're the power of concealment, you're going to let me believe that me and you are on good terms. And you don't really care about the other stuff because you're just the Shituf power. So when people believe in Shituf, it's a lifestyle. Just go to work, punch in, punch out, and my boss gives me my money.
It's a backside wisdom. It takes wisdom to do it.
Right, it's backside wisdom. So you start to think in terms of Shituf.
Doctrine.
And you don't think God gives you Shefa. You don't really think God connects with you. You do believe in God, but you don't believe that God knows you, cares about you. Your prayers go to God. The little analogy of me and James. So now I only operate with James. And so I'm totally detached from the shul. When there's a whole network here of truth, and physically I would be removed from that. I would really believe that James is like the guy here. And James is like, I've been here once. But I'm like, yeah, James is like the guy. He knows everything there. And I'll tell all my friends, yeah, talk to James.
Yeah, and then they will think
that he's the guy.
Yeah.
And because James is an emissary from God, he will let you think that. Right? The Shituf wisdom, it's not a person, place, or thing, but it doesn't mind you worshiping it. God set it up that way, that's the challenge. Meaning, if I worship my barber, he's probably going to say, that's weird, stop it. Right? He's not going to say, I'm not God, stop saying that. I just cut hair. But I'm saying, if you worship creation, it gives bounty. You can't have a religion of robbing banks. Right? The creation will reject you. You will get arrested. But you can have a religion of Shituf, and life goes on, business as always. That's why it's so dangerous. Right? It'll let you go into sin and klippa, and you live your life healthy, so to speak. So you don't even know you don't get the wake-up call. The wake-up call has got to come from you and your soul to connect to God. God, that's called God testing you. Now, if you take it far to where you say, I am going to worship Shituf now. Mamish, I want to bow to it and really worship it. So this is what they call Svei Dinim and Brisk. You are not an idolater. You are Shituf. But your religion is idolatrous. And Christianity says bow to a statue. That is not real Avodah Zarah. Because it's not with the wisdom of Avodah Zarah. But it's like Avodah Zarah. And therefore, the religion is treated as a avodah zarah. You are not a Christian, so to speak, that person. Christian is not a person, place, or it's not a person. It's a construct. And it is an idolatrous construct. Because the religion itself doesn't believe in God. It can't. It's a benign thing. It says of itself, it bows to stones and statues. The adherent says, I believe in God while I bow to this thing. You are shituv, and you are engaging in an idolatrous religion. But you are not an idolater, because you believe in God. When you go to church, you are really trying your hardest to suspend a belief in God. That's called, in the English word, that big schmear, idolatry. So you see, when we say idolatry, one of the 7 laws of Noah is to reject idolatry. This is why Noahites, in my opinion, sound a bit silly. When they say, yeah, I rejected idolatry, I'm a Noahide. Okay, no you're not. Not really. So if you say that Noahism is I reject idolatry, I'm not saying you're nothing, and you are a Noahide, but to say that that's it, look what we just talked about for the last 25 minutes. You've just denied the existence of that. Then you're going to go on Facebook arguing, Rabbi Katz just made all that up. Honestly, am I really? So, and to not acknowledge that in your faith makes no sense to me. Why would you not want to believe? I hate that word belief. But I'm saying when you're coming on to wisdom, how do you rationalize and say, I don't recognize any of that deeper idolatry stuff, I'm just an ex-Christian? That can't be the end level. By definition of Torah wisdom on the subject. Once you incorporate that wisdom, or until you incorporate that wisdom, you are that idolatry.
Is it okay for Yisrael to partake in shidduch?
It's considered absolute idolatry. So until you reject idolatry on that level, you are considered an idolater on that level. Now, Sfei Dinim, like in Brisk. There, you can reject idolatry in the very general English word sense. And you are allowed to engage in shituv. So that means you are shituv. You are shituv. We want you to be righteous shituv. So you cannot be a Christian Noahide. A Christian Noahide is not righteous. It's called chutzpah. I do the 7 laws and Yeshu is God and Mashiach. Right? That is not the righteous message to come into a synagogue with Noahism. So that is treated like idolatry. Not is idolatry, treated like idolatry. You have to at least reject that. So a lot of people today, the Noahites, have rejected that. They identify as an ex-Christian. I have a big problem with ex-Christians. Because they don't want to drop, I'm an ex-Christian. So they identify, well, I'm a Noahide, but not really. They say I'm an ex-Christian. And they go with, we all know who, the outreach Judaism organizations, bashing Christians nonstop. All that is it's like, you ever see people that get divorced and they still fight 20, 30 years later? You're divorced, hello, move on. You don't need to fight about it anymore. And we all know those people that you're not, just move on. Move on. Like Russell Kirk realized it's just not worth fighting Christians anymore. It's old news. There was the good news and then the old news. And it's not where it's at. But until you reject it, you're still in it. And you all know the shtusim that you're in your lives today. Right? You had a place of employment and then you quit and you use your Yetzer Hara. What do? You call your old friend at work. Oh, is Marge still mean with all the workers? Yeah, she held our time cards last week. Oh, that Marge. Drop, you moved on. So what is it called to move on? It's called rejecting shituf. And until you've rejected it, you haven't rejected it. And until you've rejected it, you're still kind of an idolater. But God has mercy. He lets you reject the big idolatry, and you feel good about it, but you're not done. And that's the biggest tragedy of all. Is the Noahide is told, I left the church in Yeshu, I left idolatry, I'm done. Unless you want to convert.
Is there like an actual word for that? Like in Hebrew, would that be like an actual person together in a certain category?
That's called a Noahide. And the brighter Noahide, which unfortunately there's not enough of them out there, would say, if they knew, what is a Noahide? No one ever thinks to ask that question. What they say is, oh, I'm a Noahide because you told me I am, because I left the church and I left idolatry. I am a Noahide. And I have a t-shirt that I wear that says I'm a Noahide. But if you're, I said advanced Noahide, if you have Mazel, a Mazeldik Noahide, would start to ask the question, what is a Noahide? And that could go on many, many, many ways. What does the English word Noahide mean? And that'll get you different answers. Different rabbis will give different answers. And then the same rabbi can even change his answer. We never saw that one done before. Yeah. And then the layman Jew who thinks they know a little bit of Hebrew, which I'm not doubting they do. I'm saying the Jew is tricked as well. Because every Jew I know thinks Noahide means Ben Noach. And it doesn't mean Ben Noach. Noahide doesn't mean anything. It's like what you're saying, it's a geder, what we call the goy who left the church, aka Avodah Zorah, aka idolatry. Therefore, he's not righteous. Because if I was a Christian Noahide, I wouldn't be righteous. Even though technically I could be. But since we say that's idolatrous, so I rejected Christianity and now I'm done. But if you want to get into the Torah itself, just like Shituf is advanced Avodah Zorah, and everything has the advanced version. This kills me about the internet. Why do you think the English thing is the end all? I got the Art Scroll Humash, I'm done. No, you're not done. I rejected idolatry, I'm done. You're not done. I'm a Noahide, I'm done. You're not done. And when these people are smart and bright, usually that's when they're the most prone to fall to prey, become prey, is there will be a rabbi in the fringe or kiruv world that will say you should probably convert. And that person will then be given two options. I am a Noahide and I do my 7, go to heaven, or I have to convert. And they're going to have a lot of tsar on their soul thinking, great, now what? So maybe I got to divorce my wife, I got to think about that. I got to move, I got to think about that. I can't afford a Jewish neighborhood. I like my name as it is. I don't really want to keep kosher. I kind of want to do Shabbos. I like the idea of that. I want to do the feasts and the festivals. So I'm about 65% wanting to convert. About 3% wanting to be Noahide. And I'm confused. Does that sound about right? I'm very confused. The rabbis are, this is now where, when I entered that confusion, that's really when I'm in trouble. Because I'm going to go on YouTube, and I'm going to watch every rabbi that ever lived in the Kiev world. And the rabbis are all right, because my pastor was always right until he was wrong. And the rabbis are always right, and they never argue, because they got it right, unlike my pastor. And I'm going to learn from the rabbis, and all is going to be well, because I'm with Hashem now. Because I'm not an idolater. So we'll watch one video where it's the goy and 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 the convert and the goy and the goy and the goy and the convert. So I'm now going to watch a couple more of those kind of videos, and I think I'm thinking about converting. I think I'm thinking about it. And so you could even say there's a new category called thinking about converting. I'm thinking about converting. And I say, well, I'm an ex-Christian, and I'm thinking about converting. And I go to classes where I think a lot about converting. And the rabbis come through and they tell me to think about converting. And they ask me, did I think about converting? And I told him I thought about converting. And he says that he thinks I should convert, and I think he's right. And we think about converting. And a lot of those rabbis come through, and they're all thinking about converting. So I'm thinking about converting. And then the goy happened again, the goy happened again, the goy happened again, the goy happened again. All right, so we've all been there, right? And that's really where we're at in terms of in history in real time. I would say outside of this room, that's pretty much where the whole world's at. So in the Torah itself, that person can be called a couple different terms: goy, akum, nachri, Eino Yehudi. That's pretty much it. Where are you at with those terms? Does that sound familiarity with those terms?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? What is the difference between those terms? What do those terms mean and where are they from? Do they matter? Are they all just synonyms?
Well, it depends who you're talking to and in what context.
Yeah.
So where they come out of the Torah, we say there's no synonyms in the Torah.
Right.
So obviously they have different meanings.
Right.
But when you're speaking colloquially with people,
Yeah.
then they would be all synonyms of each other.
How so? I mean, somebody comes to you and says, I left the church, I left idolatry, I'm yours. Now what?
I would point to Shevetz of Noah.
And what is that person? Is he a goy?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying I didn't hear what you were saying earlier. My understanding is that everybody who isn't a Jew is a Noahide. And the seven mitzvah, the seven Noahide laws are incumbent upon anybody
Right.
that is not Jewish.
Right. So there's a general category called a non-Jew.
Right.
Right. And that's where most people on the Jewish side are at. There are Jews and non-Jews.
Oh, but the non-Jews are Noahides.
No,
sorry. So you were making distinction.
Right. So then I just saw recently that you can even say Noahides are non-Jews, or you can say a Noah. I read this on the airplane actually. There's Noahides, non-Jews, or I'm a Noahide Lafi. I practice Noahism. See the difference?
When groups of people come along and start calling themselves Noahides,
Right.
so now that creates a problem.
Exactly.
To people like me who.
That's it.
We're all descendants of Noah.
That's it. And so there's the Noahide. Say again. There's the Noahide non-Jew, colloquial term, or I'm a Noahide because I practice Noahism, meaning I'm a seven-law Noahide.
Right.
So now there's already two categories. Oh, you're a Noahide. I believe in God. I'm still Christian. I believe in God. Oh, you're a Noahide. I'm a Noahide and I keep the seven. Oh, you're a Noahide. Svei Dinim, two Noahides. So it always starts common and simple and general. When me and you first met, I didn't know your name. You were Hey You. and that was acceptable. But how long do you have your grace period of hey you? And we all know that awkward phase when you go beyond hey you, and then you got to figure out the person's name when they introduce themselves.
Yeah, usually it's a minute after they.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then when you really love the hey you, it's like, hey, and I forgot your name. What's your name again? And then you got yourself out of it.
Right.
It's like, so like Brian Regan has got a funny joke. He's like, sometimes it goes too long and you're too embarrassed and you're like, hey Buster. My name's not Buster. Sure it is, partner. My name's not partner. So it's the same thing here. It's like, Rabbi, I left the church. Hey, all right, Buckaroo, it's all good. And then eventually you're just calling the guy Buster. And he's like, my name's not Buster. And so now you're in trouble. What do you call this goy who is like with me now? And is he? In the back of your mind, is he a goy? I won't admit it to anybody, but I kind of like this guy, and he doesn't threaten me. He's not bothering me. I like him around. I don't know what he does when he goes home. I'm pretty sure there's no church here. What is he? So that's when it becomes buckaroo and partner. Yeah. And so every synagogue that has this guy, oh, that's just the Noahide guy. Oh, okay, the Noahide guy. And that'll work for a little while, that Band-Aid. He's our resident Noahide. He's our local Noahide. He's our Shabbos goy. All right, so I'm kind of goy plus. I'm not a bad goy. I'm good goy plus. And the Jew doesn't realize that the good goy plus knows exactly what's going on, and he's just waiting for the moment to happen where the identity is revealed, and that could go on 30 years and it'll never happen. Because the Jew has in the back of his mind, how do I get out of calling him buckaroo for 30 years? And I remember I met a friend on the internet, and we were friends when I was a teenager. We shot pool together and went out, and my mom had me paranoid that don't ever tell people on the internet your name. This is back in like 1995. So I made up a name and I logged on to the bulletin board. I was Craig Easter, a combination of my two friends, Jamie Easter and Craig Cotter. So I was Craig Easter. And I met this woman who was a good friend, and I was Craig for 5 years. And she'd say, oh, Craig. I didn't have the heart to tell her, my name's not Craig. And so she just, we weren't that close of friends that it was like a real problem. It was like that kind of friend that, how some people are in your life for like 5 years for some reason. And so we saw each other about once every 6 months or so. And I was Craig. I never knew how to get out of it. It was just buckaroo until the very end. I felt horrible. I didn't know what to say. But that's the non-Jew. Right? They're buckaroo. And we're trying to end the buckaroo phase. We want to get out of buckaroo.
A special person phase.
Special people. Super special people. And that's really also where we're at in real time. That every Jew knows a super special buckaroo, and they don't have the articulation to even articulate to themselves how this goy is okay and different from the other goy. And the goy is saying, I know I'm not a goy, but what does that mean? How do I say that to the Jew? So we agree to play buckaroo. And it really is as awkward as Craig Easter. And it is that awkward. And we all, I would say that I'm guilty of it, but we all have that embarrassment because we've all been there. As buckaroo to somebody or Craig Easter to someone. And again, the Torah does have the answers to this question. And it sounds so cliche, the Torah's got all the answers, but I'm talking rabbinically, it truly does. It used to be, everyone's like, well, your next book should be to write a siddur for the Noahide. Don't need to. There's a book on the shelf over there called The Siddur. Go use it. All it might need is some footnotes of like what not to say or which part or what to say. But you don't make up prayers. I think they should say like this. Blessed are you, God. Not God or maybe Lord's a better word. This is no, not your Lord, because that's a Jew. The Lord, or maybe a Lord. Blessed is a Lord Don't say creation, because Jews worship God of creation. So say of creations. Yeah, blessed is a Lord of creations. I can't say he created everything because that's Jewish. Who created Tuesdays. That's it, he created Tuesdays. Blessed is a Lord who creates Tuesdays.
Would that be like creating a new religion kind of?
I think so.
Okay.
Or maybe like doing things according to halacha.
Right, and so you end up getting really strange ways of saying and do things. And ger is a strange way of saying and do things because a convert is a ger. I get it. But if I were to be as weird as you want me to be, I would call these people, oh, you mean the Gentile who rejects idolatry? That would be what instead of I get ger on Facebook, it would be called I get the Gentile who rejects idolatry.
Sometimes give tzedakah. It shows up on my shul sometimes.
That's it. And you would have to speak in Iker terms. So I'm the ger in your gate who eats the vela. That's who I am. Instead of I get ger, I get the ger in your gate who eats the vela. Oh, all right. So and that's what, and literally that's what it would have to be if I played by the rules everyone wants me to play by. It would have to be I get that I am the third opinion of Avodah Zorah 64b that we don't paskin by. I'm him. And the rabbis spoke that way because they copied and pasted that way. So the fact is the sources, because they're so crystal clear in copy-paste, makes it super easy to be a rabbi in this field. It's the same sources over and over and over and over and over and over again. But then you realize we can't call people, I'm the ger in your gate that eats the vela, even though that's what you are. You can't call them that. So then it becomes, what do you call them? That's the only, me and a certain rabbi who will not be named, the only question in the car was, okay, but you can't call them that. All right, so then what do we call the super special people? So let's go through the problems of what the names are. Let's call them Noahides. Problem is, according to the organization that says to call them Noahides, a Noahide is a ben Noach or a bat Noach who practices Noahism. Noahism is the practice and religion of keeping the 7 laws without going into any further detail. In other words, ger. We don't say that word. So I'm a Noahide, I'm a ben Noach, but there's a problem. Rambam 8, 10, and 11. I can become a Noahide because I am so smart I know the 7 laws. Or I can become a Noahide because God said so. So both are called Noahides.
When you say the 7 laws, you mean like they came from somewhere else, like my dad told me.
I know that it's not good to steal.
And because somebody,
Right. Or the other one says, God said don't steal.
Yeah.
So now we have Stephen Hawking is a Noahide. And we have Bob Wells as a Noahide. So that organization, who shall not be named, will say one is called a Chacham. He's a really smart guy. He knows not to steal and kill. And the other one's called a Hasid. Chassid. Now, I don't know which one you are, because I'm not allowed to go any further. We got to call you Noahides. So according to the rabbi that shall not be named, it is okay if I secretly whisper in your ear, which one are you? He says, I'm the one who thought of it myself. Okay, so you're just a regular Noahide. And the other guy said, God said so. Well, you're a Hasid. And that's how we're supposed to conduct our affairs. The world is a bunch of Noahides, and we should whisper in their ears, which one are you? And if they answer, I figured it out, then I basically, he's a goy Noahide. He doesn't matter. He's a faker. And if he's a Chassid Noahide, I can secretly like him, maybe invite them over, and we can have a little friendship. But in public and in general, they're all Noahides. We can't differentiate. Because the lesser Noahides will get offended if we make a term for the other Noahides. And when I go out my Noahide campaign, when I go to Kroger's making Noahides, I have to say it's Noahides. And if they come in because they want to or because they know they have to, we can't offend in the liberal world we live in. So we have to call them all Noahides.
And do you think there's also maybe pressure from the Jewish community? Like, what are you doing with these non-Jews type thing?
As long as they're Noahides, I feel comfortable with that term. I've seen it enough around, and I feel okay with Noahides. So what's the problem with calling all of these, call them frum and non-frum Noahides? It's confusing and you don't know who's frum and who's not. That's number one. Number two, in reality, they're not the same person. Period. One really is a ger and one's not. But we won't get into that yet. So you have, that's like the definition of an Erev Rav. I don't mean like, those Erev Rav. I'm saying how about we have a political conference in Chicago tomorrow. And we'll just call it politics. And we'll put Republicans and Democrats in the same room. Would that work out? Especially today.
It's called Congress, isn't it?
You can't expect that to work. I am a Noahide because I said so. I'm a Noahide because God said so. Oh, good. You get along now. You're both Noahides.
You should reject Shita. I don't have to reject Shita.
All right. Just take two Chinese guys and put them in the same room because they're both Chinese guys. They must be like long-lost relatives and get along. So that's like the biggest problem in practical terms. In halachic terms, they have not rejected Shituf, either one of them. So the Chassid is going to be greatly disappointed because he hasn't done anything and he's been led to believe he's done everything. I rejected idolatry. No, you didn't. And the other guy, he's just happy to be there. And he's just kind of turned on by some Jewish guy called me a Noahide. And in halacha you're called a goy, an akum, a nachri, an eino Yehudi. And you know what? They can probably live with that because they're trained to live with that. You know what? All right, I'm not Jewish. I'd like to convert. I wouldn't like to convert. Not going to convert. Want to convert. Thinking about converting. But Judaism is the pedestal, and I embrace the fact that I'm a goy. I'm a good goy. I'm okay with it. I'm not even talking that offensive or derogatory anymore. And then we'll call it by even a special name to make it sound all the more so better. Shabbos goy. I'm the Shabbos goy. Now all of a sudden I'm the most popular guy in town. When Friday, Saturday comes around, they are happy to see me. It's all about me. I don't mean that in an egotistical way. They really are happy to see me. I help them out. I'm in the community. I'm trusted. And, you just got Shabbos goy wrong because it's not derogatory. It's a halachic term. It's in the Torah. I'm a Shabbos goy. And what's your problem? I mean, I'm helping out the community. I'm accepted by every Orthodox institution in the world. It was more kosher than you probably. And I am a Shabbos goy. So how's that for where we're at?
You finally have a title now.
I'm a title. I exist. And everyone knows I can go to any community in the world and I can get in. I'm cool. I matter. And I don't mean it from a social perspective. It's just, do you want to not be that? I mean, would you rather be like the goy? Get the Christian out of here. Now, that's a little harsh. At least no one's calling the Shabbos goy a Christian. And he's spoken about in the books, there was one Shabbos goy one time. And it was the middle of winter. And they lost the keys to the shul. And it was Erev Yom Kippur. It was a blizzard. It was a freak occurrence. It was a blizzard. And we were standing outside, and because we couldn't wear leather shoes to shul, because of Yom Kippur, we were in our socks. Our feet were freezing with frostbite. And Mamash was going to be death. And George the Shabbos Goy showed up with the last copy of the key to the shul. But it didn't work. They changed the locks because the Goyim tried to break into the shul. So George the Shabbos Goy is very strong. He was Polish. He was very strong. He karate kicked the door down. And he turned on the lights. But this was a special Goy. He knew that it was an incandescent light bulb. So he did it with a shinoi, the back of his hand, to not turn on the lights lest we think he was actually a Yid. Some say he was a Yid. They say that his great-grandmother was Jewish. She was a survivor. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think he could be a Jew, but we don't. And so we were short the minyan. There was only 9 of us. And we needed George to be in the minyan. So the Rav, very smart is the Rav, he realized that a Shabbos Goy is like an Eved Kanani, and if we release our slave, he can be in the minyan, and Mitzdarif is the 10th guy. So that year in Yom Kippur, we had a Goy as the 10th guy, but it was like a Jew. So then they asked, is it mutter to release an Eved Kanani? Yeah, it's a Gemara and Brachas. You're not supposed to do it lest you give a gift to a Gentile who's mamish an idolater. But because they had a lenient position, we used the Goy as the 10th man. Then it came up a question, can we make a zimun with them after we broke the fast? So Rav said, it's all right. George is okay. He's been around a while. That's what you'll hear in shuls, those kind of stories. And that's like the culture of the Shabbos Goy. And just go read any Baal Shem Tov storybook, you'll find the one story with the one Goy who was George, and that was the story. When I went to Cape Town, I try my hardest not to go gear on people. I really do. But it's very hard to contain myself. Right? Because I'm in Cape Town, right at Popak Shul, and I'm like, all right, David Katz, don't say anything. You're not the gear guy. Just keep it cool. Just talk about kugel and filter fish, and you're okay. And then he's like, okay, Rabbi Sai, so there was a mice with the Rebbe. He had his Hasid, he was in jail. In Mamish, there was a guy who let him out of jail. I'm like, you're talking gear. It's the gear guy. He's always there. And I realized every Jewish story is about the combo of the Jew and the gear. Everywhere I go, it's all they're talking about. But if I mention ger, it's like we don't mention that. You just got done telling a story about it. And literally everywhere I go, I hear this story. Well, my one non-Jewish friend who actually came to us on Passover one year, and she didn't believe in Jesus, actually. Wow, what a shock, really. So, if we're okay with being the Shabbos Goy, and halakhically I'm an Akum Nachri of our friends, is there anything dangerous or bad with being that? Is it okay? Or better yet, do I have to be that? Can I move on? Can I be something more? The Noahide organizations today, in unison, will tell you no. 7 go to heaven. You are an Akum, a Goy, a Nachri, ain't a Yehudi. Nice guy. Then they'll say, but I want to do mitzvahs. And they'll say, no, you can't do any mitzvah beyond the 7. You'll say, but it's not true. Rambam 10:10 says a Ben Noah can keep any mitzvah the Torah. And they'll say, but the Radvaz says not these other ones. And you'll say, but those other ones I don't want to do. I just want to keep Shabbos. And it'll say, the Radvaz meant Shabbos. Didn't you read 10:9 about the Goy? They're the same thing. But Rabbi Lichtenstein wrote a sefer where it's like 66. You have 66 mitzvahs you can do. So I'm a Noahide, Goy, Akum, idolater, non-rejected Shitu, Shabbos Goy who can do 73 mitzvahs. And I counted. I do 73. And then some rabbis in New York, if you write them, they'll say, no, the list is more like 104. My Rav once counted. It was 104 they can do. And one guy says, no, I heard they can do all 613. Except for Shabbos. One guy says, no, they can do 611. They can't, they Gematria and Torah. They can't do Shabbos and Torah. And one guy said, can they even do the 7 laws? Because we don't have that today. They're just Christians.
If they find a logical meaning in it, they could do it.
Find a logical meaning. So then, like the Noahide organizations have settled, they can do mitzvot only if it's logical and with logical benefit and makes sense, and not to do it spiritually, because that would be wrong, and we hate them. We don't do it wrong. And it can't be because they want to be Jews, because that is also wrong. That's how they come across to it. We're wrong. So we do 7. And then the whole internet world argues on that point endlessly. And then you have all the different opinions that come in. The 66, the 73, the 45. And again, remember, this is adding to the confusion that we already mentioned before. What was the confusion I mentioned before? I left idolatry, that's right. I left idolatry, and what am I? So I left idolatry. I don't know what I am. They call me a Noahide. I don't know what it is. And I can only do 7, but I can do more. But I can't. But I can. But I can't. And I just go to bed saying that all day long. I can, but I can't. I can, but I can't. I can, but I can't. So if I stop that, I say I'm just going to think about converting. And that's where everyone's at. Literally, that's where everyone is at. And so enter any rabbi into that equation, and you'll just get a variable of that, a blend of that, some better than others, great answers, bad answers, logical answers, very merciful rabbis, very non-merciful rabbis, very accommodating rabbis. The majority of people I've met in person get it on a certain level and are willing to really help out their Noahide congregants. I will say that. On the internet is a special breed, and I'm not too keen on the special breed. But in person, Jews are pretty cool with the non-Jew. And I've proven it. I called once a Lubavitch in Wyoming. And I called, and I was Bob Jones. You guys know the story? How many of you guys know the story?
Oh, yeah.
I called up, and like the secretary answered, and she's like, hello? And I said, hi, my name's Bob Jones. Can I speak to the Kabbalah rabbi? And she's like, hold on. He's like, hello? I'm like, hi, my name's Bob Jones. I'm calling from Las Vegas, and I'm going to be coming through with my family, and we want to come to your synagogue and pray. And he's like, okay, you coming from Las Vegas? I said, yes, sir, and I am Gir Toshov. And he smiles and laughs, and he says, Gir Toshov. I said, yeah, Gir Toshov. And he says, well, okay, where are you diving? I said, well, Rabbi Goldstein, we pray and learn the Humash with him. And me and my family want to come pray on Friday night. He said, well, you're welcome to come to come dive in. We don't have minyan on Shabbos morning. Well, we might this week, but we don't. We usually, well, can I come with my family on the morning and pray? We don't have the minyan, but if we did have it, you'll be more than welcome. Well, you have been very, very kind and helpful. Thank you, and I will see you on Shabbat.
I think he told you the time.
Yeah, and he let me in. And he was probably waiting for the Clampets to come and take over the menu. But the point is, I got in. Bob Jones lives. So I don't buy.
There's a proof of concept.
I don't buy this thing that non-Jews aren't welcome and all the stories. Now, in the Torah end of it, you'll hear that's not right that they keep Shabbos because they should be chayiv misa. They don't get that stuff. But go knock on their door and ask them to come pray. They're letting you in. Hello, Boker Tov. No one's calling you the goy and kicking you out and chayiv misa. It's just internet hate. That's all it is. Unfortunately, internet hate we take seriously, and it stymies the message. You personally are not stymied. What it is potential Ger A in Idaho watching YouTube and Facebook fights is too scared to call and say he's Ger Toshov. If we could get him to just call and say he's Ger Toshov, he will be on his way. And that's the whole message. Is to stop blocking Idaho Jim. Is all we're saying. Idaho Jim just wants to serve God and further reject idols and eventually learn how to say that means I reject Shituf, yada yada. Until the message goes out, Idaho Bob is either stuck in church or stuck being a secret Noahide, and he's accepting being a goy, and he's okay with it, but he wants more, and he's confused. And we're here to help Noahide, Jim Bob, whatever we call him. So then you ask the rabbi, okay, so if you wanted to call them ger, and let's just say ger means we can do more. I don't know what more means yet, but it just means you can do more. Or better yet, it's more clear than what the rabbi is saying. The rabbi said, Rabbi Lichtenstein, 66 mitzvahs. Rabbi Katz said, learn the Brisker Rav in the back of the book. It was even more vague. But those that know. So to what benefit is it to use the G word? Why do you have to? Well, again, you forgot where we came from. The alternative is Noahide, which added to confusion and didn't make sense. And the Noahide organizations are then saying, but if we convert the whole world to Noahism, then Noahide will make sense. And I'm saying, but you're never going to get there because Noahism won't work. And they'll say, well, how do you know? And I'll say, because I know. And they'll say, well, how do you know? And I'll say, because I know. And then it becomes a fight. But the bottom line is, it's just not. How does anyone know what will or what won't work? I was in Cleveland days after I was here last year. I went to shul, and I remembered why I can't stay in Cleveland so much. But God willing, Justin will help me change that this year. I went to shul, and they were arguing who was going to win the primary, Trump or Cruz. I'm like, are you serious? I said, you honestly think Cruz is going to win this? And he was like, the Jews are very passionate about their politics. Yeah, he's got this and he's got that. I'm like, are you sane? Trump is killing everybody. I don't care if you like Trump or not. It doesn't matter. Look at what is happening. You're asking for the minority guy to somehow win. And I agree, probably would have been a better candidate. It doesn't matter. It's not happening. So the whole world wearing Noahide shirts is just not going to happen. There's no sources. You will never find a source by the Brisker Rav who slipped in Noahide, Cheskin as a class versus Rabbi, yada yada yada. The English word won't magically appear. It just won't. Every source ever written, you won't find the word Noahide. Now I know that you logically know that. But we all do believe in fantasy. We can't help it. My daughter knows there's no tooth fairy. But Reuven corrupted her and said that I am the tooth fairy. But the theology went down. She lost her tooth on Wednesday morning. Guess what that means? I wasn't there to be the tooth fairy. And yet the tooth fairy still came. So, she knows that I'm the tooth fairy. But yet, she got money and I'm not there. Right? So everybody has these little things that we believe. I remember the first time I fell victim to Keetshuf and noticed it. There was a candy bar I really liked in the spot. It had strawberry filling. And it was a blue wrapper. Okay, buy my candy bar, the blue wrapper. One day, wrapper was red and it said new. And I said,
New or new?
new. Right. And I said to myself, don't be an idiot. Please don't be an idiot. Please don't be an idiot. And then I'm saying to myself, but you gotta try it. It really could be new. Like, they're just Keetshufing. I know, but the goodness is inside and you don't know. You just don't know. You really don't know. It could be that it looks different, where there's satisfying ridges and grids on the chocolate bar. And you gotta see it. But it's just marketing, my friend. I bought the candy bar. And it wasn't new. It was just a new wrapper. Right? So we all have our nourishkeit, and we like to be Keetshufed, and we like to be ripped off, and we like it. Right? We do. We like it sometimes. You're not going to win every battle, and we're okay with that. So,
You got 100.
huh?
You got 100.
But sometimes you got to tear down the Keetshuf. Alright, so the Noahide thing is just not going to work. We want it to work. And they really do want it to work. And they even call it the Noahide Code. It's now a code. And the Noahide Code. What is the code? In the end, the sources all talk about Noahides. They do. Only they don't call it Noahides. They call it many, 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 many things. And they all talk the same way. It's because they all copy and paste the same sources. And they're all in unison. And they don't argue. And they'll say, but the rabbis always argue. Because you don't know how to learn on that level. Rabbis don't argue. They give different points of view. Now, it can look like a machlokis in halacha if you want to learn it that way. But you don't have to learn it that way. It doesn't have to be an argument. It could be we're talking about two different things. So again, you can learn it as a machlokis, but it doesn't make it a fundamental machlokis. And that's what this sugi is about, is learning it for what it truly is. Now, if you want to learn it shallow and according to the machlokis, then you're probably right, it's Noahide. And we'll wear happy little t-shirts. And I wrote that in my book, Bogwells, that their theology is correct and it would work. It is in there. I wrote that. The problem with it, as much as I would love Noahide to work, is it cannot be achieved unless you lie. There's a little lie that comes in. To make these little machlokuses happen, you have to lie. And you know what? Lying is okay sometimes. When Reuben wants a cookie, I say it will spoil his dinner. And that's okay. We all agree I can lie. It's not a bad lie. In everything in life, there are lies. Are there not? Where's my dinner? It burned. What it was called was I forgot. I'm sorry. I don't want to get into it and explain. Right? So we just say, it burned. Sorry. Right? We learned this from Abraham and Sarah. Right? It was a Sarah Hashem lie. Right? Huh? Right. So we're not saying lie. Like, for example, they'll say you can't go on the Temple Mount. That is a lie. That is not true. You can go on the Temple Mount. Now, what it is it's a long story, the Temple Mount. And the rabbis assume that we don't owe you the whole explanation. I think you should get the explanation. I'm not always the one that they go to for those things. Sometimes they say just the answer is no. So is that a lie? But it's part of life. If you don't want to be lied to, then go learn it and you'll know yourself. Go to Best Buy today and ask the guy working what the best rated computer is. He'll say, I don't know. That's a lie. He can know. He can look it up in Google, ask his boss, he can know. And then if you say, but can you know? I'll say, no, that information is withheld from us. We don't know that. Oh, really? So the world holds back information. If you don't want to call it a lie. So the Noahide way, if you don't want to call it a lie, call it withholding information. And it's not just a non-Jew. This is not even just religion. This is life. When I asked about Shem on Sukkah 52b, no one told me anything. Why? I wanted to know it. Withholding information. And partly it's justified. My mother asks me a million questions every day, and I never tell her the answer. Because I just can't get into it. She's like, why are you upset? Because they say they say today that there's no Ger Toshav. What does that mean? I don't know. I gotta go to bed. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't really know what they mean. You liar, you do know. You just don't want to say. No, they have this new thing. I don't know. I just can't figure it out either. Have a nice night. So the lie in Noahide is, where is the real machlokas? It's in 8, 10, and 11, Hilchos Malachim Ram. And this is, getting to your question now, Dave. Unfortunately, the pushback that I'm getting on this book, and it isn't much yet, it's brand new. I've only seen 2 pushbacks. But it's the pushback, let me know what the pushback is. It's very upsetting and depressing. Because I expected more from these people. I expected them to find the secret super source that proved that I just don't know anything. Because then it allows me to go look it up and learn. Unfortunately, the answer is, oh, that Rabbi Katz, he doesn't know there's no Ger Toshav till Yovel. Ah, shucks, you got me. Wow, I'm sorry about that one. I must have missed it. That's the pushback. So that's really what the whole book could just be called, that title. Right? Ger Toshav, there's two Ger Toshavs, one Jubilee, one non. If we ended that on that note, that could be like the whole thing. And so the other organizations say, every time the Rambam says Ger Toshav, he means Jubilee. So I would love for you to be a Ger. I would love for you to do all these wonderful things that Rabbi Katz promises you, which is wrong that he does it, because he's hurting your soul. And he would be right if there was a Ger Toshav today. He would have been right. But either we don't know if he's deliberately learning it wrong, or if he's just so uneducated, bless his heart, he's trying his best. But we're here to tell you the real truth, and that's that there's no Ger Toshav today. There is no Jubilee. And until the Jubilee, we can't be Ger. So for that, you're Noahide. And if you keep Shabbos, you're Chayav Misa. There's only a certain aspect of Torah you can learn. Do your 7, go to heaven, and wear your happy t-shirt. I'll be selling them after I'm done speaking. T-shirts.
Just real quick, I use the funds from the book to get the pizza and the food for the day. Could I have some money for a tip for this guy? Just like if anybody could.
Yeah.
A few dollars. And we'll like try and figure out the reimbursement numbers.
So on that note is where you have the entire discussion on the deeper level taking place. Is there a Ger Toshav today? Why do you have to call them ger toshav? What is ger toshav? Are they ger toshav? Should they be ger toshav? If they did more, that would be ger toshav, but I don't know if there's ger toshav. So the entire discussion is ger toshav. Until X amount of years ago, there was no discussion. Everything was ger toshav. Suddenly, there's no ger toshav. One culprit is the English language, which called it resident alien, and all ger became converts. But as an agenda, I don't know if anyone knows where the ger toshav went. I certainly wasn't alive or old enough to know. When I entered into the discussion, it was just clear ger toshav. And I went through the material of Perechei Shoshanim. Half of their material is about there is no ger toshav. So another way of saying it is, yeah, it's Noahide because we checked it out to the point of half of our program to convince you that there's no ger toshav. And we admit, yeah, if there was a ger toshav, all these things that Katz promises you would be right. But since there's not a ger toshav, that's why the rest of the program is about Noah. And you're probably, then you get the fringe answers, well, they're lost tribes, ger toshav's a minority opinion, they're lost Jews, we're all Jewish in our hearts, we're the lost house of Israel, so therefore ger is not important, God will take care of it, we don't have to do anything, it's too hard to know, you can't know, it's a machlokes, David Katz isn't Jewish, he may not even be a human, we're not sure where he's from Dayton, he wears a green Yamaha, sometimes. These are all the things this is the answer of why there's no ger toshav today. There's no ger toshav today because my yarmulke is green. That's the answer why. For those wondering why does he have to wear the green yarmulke? Because yarmulke is like when you drive in a car, wind blows and it falls off your head. With a knitted yarmulke, it stays on your head. Very deep wisdoms going on in the world. Very, very deep. And so that's really where the issues are at. It's about, is he right? How's he right? Why is he right? Do I want him to be right? Why isn't my rabbi right? My rabbi said he's wrong. That's the issue. The issue isn't really what does it say in Avodah Zarah 64b, which I wish that was the issue. So there's a thing called, that I've been saying, halacha versus hashkafa. So there's halacha and there's hashkafa. Philosophy and law. And I don't know when or how this happened. I know it exists in the B'ol Tshuva world, but I don't know. I just kind of always thought that halacha mattered. It's just, it's almost like in basketball, they got away from the fundamentals. How does that happen? Right? Every little league coach makes you do the fundamentals. So how is it you get to the pros and you don't know fundamentals? So here also, we've lost the fundamentals, and that doesn't mean you're on a low level. And the basketball players say are not low level, but everyone's going to say they lost the fundamentals. So the way of the world. And so where have the fundamentals gone? That's the rhetorical question I'm asking. And then me and my friends back home ask ourselves, where did the scholarship go? Where did the Brisker Rav go who understood ger toshav? It's not lost, because I meet people that know it. Chicago was the best example of that ever. Everyone wants me to write the source book. I wasn't on the level to write the source book. Rav Moshe Soloveitchik says his father pretty much wrote the book. Aaron Soloveitchik. And this book is based off of that book. I just translated his work and added other works, and that's this book. I can't write it. And Aaron Soloveitchik couldn't write it. It's just the sugya passed down. I mean, he was great to capture it in the Hebrew, but he just copied and pasted it, and Rabinovich copied it, and everyone did. And I just copied and pasted it. And I would have liked to have written my own book in Hebrew. I just, I don't know if I had the time and effort, so I put it in English, and I hope it accomplishes what it could accomplish in Hebrew. But for some reason, and I don't know why, it's been relatively lost, Ger Toshav. And again, there are people that know it. Rav Moshe Soloveitchik knows it inside out better than I do. And Rabinovich knows it way better than I do. But, nothing against Rav Moshe, but, is he on YouTube making videos? He doesn't want to. It's not his job. He shouldn't have to. And no one's having tainas on Rav Moshe. Or 95-year-old Rabbi Rabinovich. He's Lord Jonathan Sachs's Rabbi. But of those on the internet and in the Kiruv world, how did the lack of fundamentals happen? And watching all the Kiruv videos on YouTube, everyone's like, "Oh man, did you see that rabbi give that shiur?" And I'm saying, like, how is that even possible to go out? Where I come from in yeshiva, it's like you get in trouble for saying some of these things. It's just low grade. And some are not. I mean, there are some that are high grade, okay? And not everyone. But I'm seeing largely fundamentals and skills are not being displayed. I think it's because the guys that know just aren't on YouTube. They're in yeshiva. I mean, I really shouldn't even be on YouTube. My life was in Kollel for a long time, and life circumstances brought me out into the world, and I'm kind of just counting my days till I go back in my cave. And I found out it's just better to be in the cave than to be out here. It's a lot safer. But I wouldn't have found the Ger people in the world, and we have a mission to do when you find them. So, whatever, I'm doing my job. But in the Ger world, for whatever reason, they're plugged into a world that's lacking fundamentals. And it shouldn't matter, because the Baal Tshuva doesn't really need those fundamentals. I think they do, but the way the Kiruv works is they're not interested in teaching the fundamentals. It's a system of how to make Balei Tshuva. And they want to get them excited, and Shabbaton, and they're not teaching brisk. They're not teaching Shulchan Aruch. I'm a radicalist. I think if you taught Shulchan Aruch to a Baal Tshuva, they would love it. That's what I think. And they say, no, it's not our way, and we got to give them the heart and song and dance. I don't think so. Not everything is kumbaya. There will be kumbaya people, and there are people that are not kumbaya people. My brother Ben is not a kumbaya guy. If some rabbi ever got to him, I guarantee you it will not be through kumbaya. Ben would love Talmud. He would love thinking. Unfortunately, Ben is tied up in the financial world and he can't think straight. But if I could get through to him, it would not be through song and dance. And a lot of people are not song and dance people. Ger people are extremely serious. They do like song and dance. I don't know why they all do. But they also like heavy-duty wisdom. And that's really what the message is about, is getting the wisdom out to that populace. And my talk at Nativ from 2 years ago, Dirk the Goy and John the Ger. Dirk the Goy, working at Best Buy, didn't know wisdom if it smacked him in the face. John the Ger taught me wisdom. How can some Goy teach me wisdom? Welcome to Ger. The Ger's got what to teach and share, and that's the relationship. And the world's just not used to people giving wisdom. I know that the biggest secret between two Jews is the other Jew doesn't know that the other Jew has wisdom. And if they knew that, things would be a better place. That's a different story. But the success of Ger is the fundamentals and the skills and learning and the Masorah and learning and getting it out, getting it articulated, and being able to match when it says a goy Shabbos is chayiv misa, knowing how to say that's the goy or the akum in Hilchos Malachim 10:9 as opposed to the ben Noach in 10:10. Oh, but what's a ben Noach? Well, ben Noach could be a ger toshav not gamor, which is different than a ger toshav gamor. A ger toshav gamor only exists in the time of Yovel Noyeg, but since it's not a time of Yovel Noyeg, I guess he's not a ger toshav gamor. He's like a ger toshav or not a ger toshav gamor. Right? It's one sugya, and once you learn how to say it, it's just a very powerful tool to get the message out. And Noahide stands for the editing out of what I just said. You justify how that's right, I give up. I will admit I lost. You can prove to me that all that stuff, well, that's just his opinion and the minority view, and he's just confusing us. All right, you're right. You know, ultimately, it's just a choice. If you think that that's irrelevant and it's just easier to be a Noahide, and that's the objective truth, then I lose. You win. If I win, not making it a game, okay, but if I win, then those things matter, and that means the Masorah matters, and the Torah wasn't written for naught, and there's a God that expects us to grow and know, and when the Mashiach comes, it'll be because we're doing what God wants us to do, and not because of a Savior Messiah that will come and save us that we're not supposed to believe in. Unfortunately, the Jews do. Not the Jews that know. Literally, I know a guy from Kolel. He was like, yeah, when Mashiach comes, he's going to come save us. And those that learned in Kolel, he's like going to pat on the back. Like, man, are you in the church? That was before I even knew what church was. You know, it's just the Western world ideals have entered and plagued Judaism. Not the Torah itself, and not the religion itself. Not even the beliefs themselves. Just in the Yetzer Hara has become westernized. Everyone's got their Yetzer Hara. So when I hear a goy that kept Shabbos, the first thing my Yetzer says is, he's wrong, chayiv misa. Just trained to not think about it. So Yetzer Hara, it's not real Judaism. Now there is a source that says it, and it's talking about a goy akum who did not reject shituv. And I agree. He should not have any part of Shabbos whatsoever. But don't say that I'm saying that a ger toshav is that guy. You can't, even if I wanted to be deceptive and say it, I couldn't say it. That'd be like me trying to convince you the sky is green because I want to trick you. Hey, what's it like outside? The sky is green. It doesn't work. You can't be evil for the sake of being evil. Like Avodah Zarah. You're doing it to get shefa. You can't just make stuff up to make it just doesn't work. You know, you don't throw a basketball game by shooting the ball in the opposite hoop. It'd be a little bit obvious. Like, what was he doing? Running backwards down the court and scoring a basket in the other basket. You can't cheat that way. So, the system is set up so strong, it just makes more sense to cooperate than to think that it's contrived or twisted. If you were going to twist it, you would twist it. I don't even know how you could. It's not really twistable. That's why the twisting is editing it out. Just don't look at it. It's too dangerous.
Put it in a different language.
That's right. Call it Noahide. And a ger is a convert. That's how you twist it.
Talk about it in English instead.
Right. So we're trying to untwist it. And that's really what it's about. How long till the pizza comes?
It's here.
So let's break.
But how long would the break be?
What's up to you guys?
Well, we've got a dozen people online.
What's that?
A dozen people online.
There
are people that want to know so they can come back and watch.
Hour. What time is it?
1:45.
Yeah. Start at 3.
3 o'clock Chicago time. Okay. And just so people know, not online, but here,